And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, yeah.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. Of course, it's Friday with the Finest Unfiltered. It is time to talk about what's going on in New York City, the NYPD, and of course, Zohran Mamdani. Defund the police. Mamdani posed a detail for his wife for an escort to Syria was denied. And John, you had put out a little video about it. If you believe that, well, then you don't understand fake news. I say the same thing. If you believe that the NYPD actually denied an escort for his wife, I'll sell you a bridge and we could go buy it right now. There's no doubt about it. And the NYPD, especially at the upper echelon, is going to be at the helm of everything that they're not going to say no to anything he says. I mean, it'd be pretty outlandish for them to say no. I don't think anything's off the table when it comes to political appointees. So let's jump into it, everyone. It's your roundtable. Good morning to the chat. You see, chat's already going. Pat Donahue, you're not in the doghouse anymore, so at least I hope not. We'll see later on today. So good morning, everybody. We appreciate it. See, Chief Marino's up. Mike, how you doing, brother? Steven, what's up? Oh,
Eric, your service.
Quite often.
Eric, your service a little bad this morning, dude. You keep
really?
chopping up. Yeah, you keep chopping up.
Is it me or is it you?
It's definitely you.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely you. Yeah,
all right. Well, let's. I'll let you jump into it and figure out what's going on with my service. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, so we're going to talk about a couple of things today. Marlon's running late, so we'll be taking a 28 from him. He'll be on in a little bit. But we're definitely going to be getting into Mamdani and what's been putting out in the news that the NYPD denied him. They denied him going. They denied giving his wife an escort overseas. We're going to deep dive into that. We're also going to talk about the case of Omar Habib, first cop to be indicted for New York City's chokehold bill, and the first cop now to be convicted of New York City's chokehold bill. We're going to dive into what that means for policing. A lot of stuff going on in politics, a lot of legislation coming out, a lot of things that we told you was going to happen a long time ago, and now they happen, right? And I think Habib was the biggest one, right? Because we said it's only a matter of time before they start locking people up for it. It's only a matter of time before people start getting convicted. And I think that's the first of many, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty wild episode. Not as wild as Wednesday when we went into Fauci, obviously. I'm trying to stay calm. But, yeah, it's just, talking about all that stuff, it definitely rips open a lot of scabs. But not just me, a lot of people, because I got a lot of text messages, a lot of calls, a lot of emails about that episode. And it's a lot of the whole topics, So, today's going to be probably a little no different. I don't think as charged, but it's just the state of policing, what's occurring right now in New York City. And these implications are going to affect law enforcement nationally. So thanks for joining us this morning. Yeah, let's get into it. What's up, Eric?
Well, for me, what's up, brother? For me, this charges me up. Because I think, I train jiu-jitsu. I've trained my entire life, different forms of martial arts, including boxing, compete on a novice level. And I think that the chokehold is a phenomenal tool if trained properly. And this idea that it's pretty much outcasted, I think is pretty much insane. But I think it draws a good comparison. We often tell you that former Mayor Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, and Zohran Mamdani are getting the same thing. And so the reality is, throughout that tenure, if we look at those three, what has happened? And so what we've seen is when Daniel Pantaleo was terminated, and I say wrongfully terminated for the Eric Garner incident, that was disciplinary. And thank God he never actually received any criminal charges. But here we have someone, and it's kind of fell under the radar. People kind of forgot about it, short-term memories. But here's someone that was involved in a run-of-the-mill incident, nothing that made the news, especially not nationwide in comparison to Eric Garner. And we have a cop who's not convicted. So that should be scary to every cop that's out there on patrol right now, or every cop that's out there wearing the uniform, especially in New York City. Because at any time, the chokehold ban and the diaphragm law should be something weighing over your head right now. And unfortunately, it's something that makes you timid from doing your job. And we've told people numerous times, we've spoke on this network how the diaphragm law and the chokehold ban is something that hasn't really been utilized or weaponized yet. But here we are. We've gotten to that pinnacle point. Now someone was convicted on the chokehold ban. It's just a matter of time before someone faces conviction for the diaphragm law. And we tell you often, it's almost every arrest incident that involves a physical confrontation that cops violate the diaphragm law. It's pretty much impossible to bring someone in custody, bring them under control when they're a resisting perpetrator, to not violate the diaphragm law. And what is a diaphragm law? If you're new to the channel, if you're not a active retired cop in New York City, diaphragm law means a cop cannot intentionally or unintentionally put any pressure to the chest or to the back of a resisting perpetrator. Now, how do you get someone under control? By pinning their hips and pinning their hips and their shoulders. So how do you subdue someone without pinning their hips and their shoulders, without chest-to-chest pressure or any pressure on their back or chest? Well, unfortunately, you're left to brutal tactics. So they put the cops in very pinnacle position. So here we are at a point where the cop is now convicted. What does that say for the rest of rank and file right now? What about the unions? All the unions can say at this point is Pat Hendry said that our cops are being convicted for doing their job. That's all he could say. Again, lines that just don't go anywhere. To me, it just falls flat in its feet, and it's nothing's actually done. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the unions?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we got to get into all that, and I think that's going to be like the second half of the show. I think we should dive into Mamdani right now, and I think the unions there are no unions. I said it 1,000 times. You know, there are none. I mean, they gave you a nice little quote in the post, and they're telling you nothing and guiding you not at all. And there's a lot of stuff on it. Honestly, there's so much that it ties into, and there's so much that it ties into with even a new piece of legislation that just dropped. We'll definitely deep dive into that on Monday. There's just law enforcement's just a mess right now, and the reason it's a mess is not because of the people that are actually doing the job. It's because the people that are leading it. Law enforcement's a disaster, and it is because of the leadership, and it's because of the unions. They do not work for you. They work for the mayors, and I mean, it ties even in with the main topic, right? Like this, like you get this fake news coming out, like as if the NYPD is like autonomous from the mayor's office, right? As if the NYPD is autonomous from New York City Council, as if the politics of whatever city you're in is completely different than your police department's politics or your police department's leadership. And that might be true when you have an elected sheriff, right? Like might be true if you're electing your sheriff, but it's definitely not true in big blue cities because the police commissioners are appointed. Mamdani's security staff is appointed. He appoints them. I mean, and I'll take it all the way back to Rudy Giuliani. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to go against the mayor and sit and stay in the police department. You're just not. I mean, you could take it in the eyes of William Bratton, where he's tried to overstep the mayor. Giuliani told him to beat it. You could take it with Jimmy Shea, where Jimmy Shea refused to hand over federal intelligence to the mayor and the police commissioner because he said, you don't have federal clearance. That was Jimmy Shea's last day on the job. I didn't hear anybody in Intel getting kicked out for denying Mamdani to do an escort for his wife. So, I mean, like, I when I was watching this, I was like, who, like the media puts a real nice spin on things, and it's never really accurate. And it's so funny to watch everyone parrot this. NYPD, NYPD slapped it down. NYPD did this. It was all over the media. Yeah, and the NYPD said no. The NYPD did not say no. They just did not. I'll tell you what the NYPD did do, though, is they 100% leaked. Somebody saw that. Somebody saw that this trip was about to go down and leaked that to the media. And that went out. And then the mayor played dumb And then NYPD's like, yeah, we would never do that. It's like, really? You would never do that? Didn't one of your last inspectors get terminated for flying around with Bill de Blasio while he was running for president? Didn't he get terminated from the police department for doing that? Didn't during Eric Adams' regime, the entire upper echelon of the NYPD travel to countries who are not our allies all over the Middle East, had nothing to do with police business whatsoever at all, and nothing happened. And no one said a word about it. So now all of a sudden, yeah, the NYPD slapped it down. The union saying we would never put our guys in harm's way. Like, what are you talking about, dude? I watched detectives fly all over the place, had nothing to do with official business, to countries that are hotbeds for terrorism, to countries that more than likely we're going to go to war with in a couple of months. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't. Like, no one denied Zohran Mamdani. If Zohran Mamdani's wife wanted the escort, she was getting it. They had the plans to go, and it got leaked, in my opinion. That's it. Like, I mean, I don't know. Did you see it any different, Eric? Do you think that someone's going to tell Mamdani, like, yeah, oh yeah, we're not gonna send a detective with your wife?
No, absolutely not. There's no way. I mean, first of all, it's not like the NYPD ever had a security detail for the twin brother of a police commissioner. Has that ever happened before? No. It's not. Ed Caban's brother didn't have a security detail by the NYPD. Ed Caban didn't go to Qatar. Tanya Kinsella, she went somewhere overseas also. There's been numerous trips. First of all, let's just get something straight. The NYPD is never, I'm actually going to say this, never going to deny Zohran Mamdani of any request. In fact, they're going to try to accommodate him in any way possible. So if anyone believes, I saw the same thing, if anyone believes that the NYPD actually stood up against Zohran Mamdani and said, hell no, we're not doing this, that we can't do this, if you believe that, you're out of your minds. There's no doubt about it. Because there's retired upper echelon of the NYPD waiting right now. Will do anything that Zohran Mamdani tells them to do just to get a job or just to be in his good graces. No one's telling him no. Absolutely not. Was it leaked? Could be. I thought it could be leaked, or maybe it was leaked by the media. Somehow they found out. And but there's no doubt in my mind. No one said no. If Zohran Mamdani got on the phone and said, listen, put together a detail for me right now. There's a last-minute flight for my wife, and she's going in a couple hours, they would have put that detail together. There's no doubt about it. If anyone thinks different, then you haven't been paying attention to almost 4 years of John and myself talking on the Finest Unfiltered. There's no doubt about it. I don't think they would say no to anything. How do we know that? What's a good reflection of the future? Is a good prediction of the future is a reflection of the past. What happened in the past? A vaccine mandate. Did anyone say, no, we're not going to implement or, impose our will on our members to have a decision within 7 days, to make a decision if they're going to continue employment with the NYPD, to inject themselves with a vaccine that they don't have the science behind it? No. And if we move forward and if they decide to do another mandate or some other force to impose their will, is anyone going to say no? Not a chance. So, I mean, John makes an interesting point. We're talking about, a sheriff is far different. That's an elected position, elected by the people. We're talking about someone that is actually appointed by the mayor. They're absolutely not. They're a political appointee. Early on in my career, John, probably the same thing for you. I didn't realize how political that position was. But now, far more than ever. When I was young, I thought Ray Kelly, he's just another cop with a civilianized position. But when you realize it is more political than we think, it is local politics being the police commissioner or being the upper management of the NYPD.
Yeah, what's up, Marlon? Marlon,
Yo.
we're gonna take at 30 minutes of lost time. All right.
Yeah, no issues. I have before the job got rid of me, I had at least 6 months of time saved up. Yeah, so all that 6 months is now vanished into the ether. Yeah. Anyway, morning guys, morning chat. Quite a topic to talk about. I got to admit though, I'm a little late joining this topic itself. I mean, overall, because I look at these things as like a lot of distractions, but once I really looked at it, I came to I kind of think that this was leaked by cops itself, maybe possibly by people in that unit or an intel who just didn't want to go along with it. I mean, who wants to go take a trip to a war zone, right now? That who wants to tell their wife, honey, I I'll be I'll be back in a couple days. I'm going to one of the hottest areas of the world right now. You know, no one. So I tend to think this might be coming from might be a kind of a mutiny of sorts, from guys who just didn't want to go along with this and thought this was not a great idea, you know. Yeah,
Mal, I think it's a fair assessment, but I don't think so. I got to be honest. I mean, anyone that's in that detail knows damn well that when you're in a security detail like that you're pretty much at the behest of the mayor. And you're at the behest of the mayor, and you know damn well that the political appointees, the upper management, the NYPD, are potentially going to send you wherever the hell they tell you to, whether it's within the confines of the city, in the confines of another state in this country, or somewhere overseas. So it could be a leak, yes, but do I think it came from that security detail? No, I don't think so. I definitely think high probability says most likely it's a leak, but where it came from, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I just don't see it come from that security detail. I get it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm not giving inside info, by the way, guys. So this is just me.
No
digging
inside
into
baseball
it.
here, brother.
Yeah.
No, I think it 100% came from that detail. I think it 100% came from that detail. And I think that if you deep dived into what happened, the protocol that will be done for future trips is completely changed. I think it 100% came from them. I don't see any way around it, how it gets leaked out without that. I don't see it. They don't normally follow the protocols anyway. Half the stuff is done after the fact anyway, especially when you're doing whatever notifications they have to make when you're doing it at the mayor's behest. Yeah, I don't think anybody wanted to travel to a hotbed in Syria unarmed. You're not who are you protected by? And what the hell's happening over there? What's
Yeah.
happening over there when you get there? Like, you know what I mean? It's one thing if you go to a country where we're friendly with the president and you're going to be protected by the military, but like the security, what are you really doing there? You're not really security. I mean, you can't even do nothing. You have no firearm. You have no powers. You have no police powers. What are you guys doing? I mean, and when you look at who's in charge of the detail, I mean, are we going to say he's not an ally of Zohran Mamdani? He's not going to do exactly what Zohran Mamdani says. Of course he is. You know what I mean? He's going to do exactly what he says. And then you have the rank and file people that are in there. And I'm sure right now what's going on is they're looking to figure out who the leak is. And they're looking to ensure that this information can never get leaked out again. That's what's happening right now. I mean, and again, I'm not spewing inside information. I'm saying, like, I just know the job. I know what they do. I've watched this stuff for a long time, and it doesn't make sense to me. None of it makes sense to me that the NYPD would deny anybody. This looks like to me, rank and file said, absolutely not. This is bullcrap. I'm putting this out there, and they got caught with their pants down, and they completely 180'd on it. And they were like, oh, yeah, miscommunication. Mamdani didn't even know about it, or all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, all right. Okay. Because the other thing is, there was a lot of stuff that was publicized about Ed Caban's trips and Tanya Kinsilla's trips and Eric Adams' trips overseas. But they were always publicized after the fact, after they got caught. It was always after they got caught. And so it was like, how many times didn't they get caught? We know at least 7 times that the NYPD went overseas in a security manner for either the police commissioner or the mayor or somebody else. And there was zero reason that there was police related, it was intelligence related, it had nothing to do with city business. We were international department. You remember? Remember when Caban, right before New Year's, he went to the Dominican Republic to sign several agreements? Sign agreements. It's like, what? You know, like all these trips all over the place. Everybody's getting these taxpayer-funded vacations. How many happen of these that the public doesn't know about? And I'm going to say, even if you go 4 years of Eric Adams, it was probably hundreds of times that cops went overseas and no one knew a damn thing about it. And it had nothing to do with anything city related or anything police business related. And so, you know, I just think eventually people get fed up and they're like, you know what, this is Syria. I'm not going to Syria.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're actually asking the detectives to enter Syria under level 4, under level 4 advisory. I mean, we're talking about Syria right now. Syria is the country that had civil war, that has affiliates from Al Qaeda, and where ISIS pretty much ISIS was born. So we're asking our detectives to go to somewhere where there's a level 4 threat. I think it's pretty outlandish, and I think it's pretty ridiculous to Zohran Mamdani. But what I think is also ironic, right? We talk about often defund the police. We talk about disinvesting into the NYPD. We talk about moving to this community-based style policing. But yet the NYPD has been, for Zohran Mamdani, Eric Adams, and former Mayor Bill de Blasio, it's been a hell of a crutch. It's been a fantastic tool. You know, it's almost like people say, when they go out to dinner, there's this one thing I don't like, but I always eat it anyway. And it's the same thing when it comes to Zohran Mamdani. I don't like the NYPD, but hey, sometimes it's useful. But it's sure damn useful to attempt to escort his wife to Syria under level 4 threat, where ISIS is born, where we have Al Qaeda affiliates. It's absolutely insane to put our detectives in that position anyway, to put them in a place that most people would not even go. You know, that's definitely level 4 threat. We shouldn't be sending our detectives there unless it's absolutely necessary, and we've done everything possible to keep them safe. So it's absolutely ridiculous. But here we talk about a mayor that could care less about the NYPD, sees the NYPD more as a threat, more as an enemy. But when it comes time, it's necessary, they sure utilize that same taxpayer-funded organization that they want to eradicate and defund. But when it works, when the tools are useful, they're going to use it. Again, let's talk about this. Does anyone actually believe that the NYPD denied it? There's no doubt about it. There's not. So was it a leak? Could be. Most likely a leak. I don't think it came from the security detail. I don't think so. Well, I mean, we'll never know. We'll never know. But I definitely think it's a leak. That's most highly probable. I just think it's insane. Here's the mayor that hates the NYPD, talks about the man in uniform with a gun who's actually a threat, but not for his wife. When it comes to his wife traveling, also the NYPD is great. And here's the question: what does a trip like that cost? We're talking about needing to defund the NYPD because the taxpayer burden that it has on the city right now and the financial crisis that they're going through. What does that cost? I mean, it must cost millions to just take a trip to Syria for his wife on a private jet, especially to a level 4 threat location in the world. How many detectives are needed? This is a huge taxpayer burden. What do you think, Marlon? What do you think the cost is that emanates from something like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure about millions, but we know it's gonna cost some money, I know. And the thing is, if he's taking a private jet there, how much does a private jet alone cost, and who's funding it? Is my question, because a lot of, especially to travel to that part of the world, a private jet is gonna cost you a lot of money. Think of it, just to go to just to go to parts of this country, a private jet will cost you $17,000 an hour. Yeah. How much would they charge to go to to fly to a country that's in amidst civil war? They do still have civil war going on, by the way. It's just not really being talked about in the news. And they're being bombed by a certain country in the Middle East that when you talk about it, you get banned. You know the country I'm talking about. Them and Lebanon are both getting bombed. Parts of it are both getting bombed right now. So it's a country that's in the middle of a conflict that, you know, if I'm a pilot, if I'm a company operating a jet, I'm definitely charging you up the ass to fly that. And also you're gonna need insurance. We're gonna need to be insured to go there, you know?
Oh, I think it's
So
millions. I think it's
yeah.
millions. I looked up just a private jet, an average
Mhm.
flight from, let's say, Las Vegas to New York is roughly 90 to 160,000 just for one way flight. Now we're talking about all these security threats. We're talking about landing in a hotbed zone under level 4 threat. I think it's millions.
Yeah. When I said that amount, it's per hour. So if you're
Right,
flying
right.
cross country, it's like $17,000 an hour. So it's a lot of money. The sums I've heard are like astronomical for this. Keep in mind also that this is the guy who runs Syria now. After the Bashar al-Assad was basically forced out, he had to flee the country, right? And this guy took over. And this guy himself used to be part of ISIS. In fact, we had a bounty on his head, $10 million bounty on his head. But apparently ISIS is our friends now, so he gets to run Syria. So the point is though that would I fly to a country where the leader, you know, years ago would be calling for the beheading of Americans? Okay, even if I had family in that country, I'm now from America, and being from America, I would think that depending on which way the wind is blowing that day, you might be a great political pawn, a political chess piece in the international politics, you know, especially if they were to hold you in that country. So with all this going on, which detective wants to would like to take a flight there? You know, who wants to tell their family they're going there, right? So what you're looking at on screen now is also a report from August 6th about a bomb that blew up in a bus in Damascus, and Damascus is the capital of Syria. So again, it's a pretty hot area of the world right now. I'm muted, John. You're muted.
However the leak comes out, it comes out. It doesn't matter. But they're not sharing those intel plans with just anybody, and so that's my point. It's like it doesn't. They're not just it's not privy to a lot of eyes, is what I'm saying. And if you look at what's going to occur now and what has occurred, I'm sure you're going to see some transfers out of places, and I'm sure the way that they report these are absolutely going to get changed going forward. Like, that is it. Like, whoever's in charge of that detail, if he remains in charge of that detail, he remained in charge because he's looked at as an ally. He's not looked at someone that's going to deny the mayor any single thing he asks. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to look. We had deputy commissioners going to like stupid places like Pennsylvania to take their kids to Wolf Lodge or Great Wolf Lodge or whatever. Like, do you need a security detail to take you there? As a deputy commissioner, you might be a doofus and all over social media. You might be making a fool of yourself, but do you need a security detail to drive you and your children and your family to Great Wolf Lodge? Is this something that taxpayers should be paying for? No, but they do that shit every day, right? They do it all the time, wherever they're headed, wherever the airports are, dropped off at the airport, picked up from the airport. This is what it is. This is what those details are. And so, I got it. They're good details. Me personally, I wouldn't want to be Bill de Blasio's guard. I wouldn't want to be Eric Adams' guard. I wouldn't want to be Zohran Mamdani's guard. I wouldn't want to be Brad Lander's guard. I wouldn't want to be with any of these idiots, to be honest with you. Like, I don't want nothing to do with them. I don't want anything to do with whatever the hell you guys are doing, whatever the hell you guys are part of. Because at the end of the day, anything that comes out of it, you're going to be left holding the bag. If the decision was made to go there and they flew there and they came back, is Zohran Mamdani going to get in trouble for misusing taxpayer funds? No, you are. You and the NYPD. Look at the guy Redmond, I think his name was, Inspector Redmond, right? He was in charge of intel. He was the guy, and not in charge of intel, but he was the guy in charge of the mayor's security detail, right? MSSS, right? MSS, right? Mayor Security, whatever it stands for. And he was running around there. He was always with de Blasio, right? He always had his guys out there. Every event you saw de Blasio at, you saw this inspector, you saw Redmond. He was all over the place. And he ultimately gets fired because of Bill de Blasio. Because he's traveling all over the country with a security detail, an NYPD security detail, while he's polling at like 0.01% to be the president of the United States. No one knew it. No one thought he was going to win. I mean, the only people that donated to de Blasio's campaign were hotel owners. They only donated to him because that was the deal that was made, and that's why we, all of us, we fund hundreds of millions of dollars to homeless shelter contracts to these hotel owners. That's why we do even more than that now, billions of dollars to house migrants as well. They were the only ones that donated to Bill de Blasio's campaign, and even they knew Bill de Blasio wasn't going to win. But Bill de Blasio traveled all over the country, got booed everywhere he went, because everybody's like, look at this tall, gorky German guy that's pretending he's Italian. One of the worst mayors in New York City history. And Intel was every single state he was at. Had nothing to do with New York City business. It had nothing to do with police business. And a lot of people's careers went down the toilet bowl, including Inspector Redmond, who was ultimately terminated by the NYPD. So, I mean, when you sit there, you're like, oh, yeah, what did Intel learn from that point? No, because then we had Adams come in. And what happened? I mean, the guy's accused of taking money from foreign governments, who are not our friend, by the way. Foreign governments who are also looked at as close to Syria. And they traveled all over the world doing shady stuff. And now every single person around them is either under suspicion of corruption, has been indicted for corruption, had to step down because of corruption allegations or investigations. And guess who was with them the entire time that they did all this stuff? Oh, yeah, you guessed it. NYPD intelligence detectives who were guarding them. And do you think that these people that never go to jail, do you think they're going to ultimately be the ones that pay for things? Or do you think it's going to be the NYPD cops and what rules they violated and what they didn't do, and they didn't sign this, and they didn't get the Intel log number for that, and they didn't do this? That's what it's going to be. I mean, and that's what it always is. And it's the same here. You know, it's the same here. To sit here and say that anyone in the NYPD is going to tell Zohran Mamdani no, it's so who is it going to be? Jessica Tisch? Mike LaPetri? Who? Someone tell me. Somebody tell me who's going to say no to the mayor. Because I don't think they're going to say no about anything. And they haven't said no about anything. And we could go on really hard topics, or we could just go all the way down to the little small minutia. There's never a no. If there's a no, that person's no longer the police commissioner. They're no longer the chief of department. They're no longer in charge of the Intel security section. If you're a detective in there, you're not going to be in there anymore. You'll be in the 4-3 squad or wherever the furthest point from your house is. So I like to talk about theorizing things sometimes, but this is all garbage. Like, it's garbage. Nobody denied Mamdani anything. Nobody will deny Mamdani anything. And so I don't really think there's really that much more to even talk about on this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, listen, I just think, listen, it's all speculation. My firm belief, and I'm going to firm to this, is that if you're in the security detail for Zohran Mamdani, it's almost like being Rodney Harrison or being up in management in the NYPD. You're at their beck and order, and you're going to do whatever it takes to be in their good graces. And if you're in that security detail, you know damn well what's expected of you, and you're there to protect the mayor and his family. And it's very likely, I don't care what people say, it's very likely that you're going to have to benefit or do something to assist the family. And it could be private travel. And we've seen it before. These are things that don't make it the news often. They're not challenged. I know at some point, if we look back at former Mayor Bill de Blasio, it was about $319,000 that was challenged by the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board for personal travel. So I'm curious about this. It's pretty ballsy for Zohran Mamdani want to have his wife escorted to Syria. I mean, that's complete for personal travel. That Is there a security threat there? Yes, but it's completely for personal travel. So at what point do we draw the line? What does the taxpayer have to pay for? Does the taxpayer have to pay for just personal travel? She's the first lady, but do they have to pay just for her travel? And these are questions because we're talking about a city that's in financial crisis right now, and yet Zohran Mamdani apparently doesn't care. He doesn't care. So do I think this came from the security detail? No. I know both you guys do. It's just a good conversation. I don't think so, because I think if you're in that security detail, you're almost like being Ronnie Harrison. You're always on the interview stage because you want to be in their good graces and you want to be in that detail. If you're in the security detail and you're protecting Zohran Mamdani, you know damn well what might be expected of you. You know damn well you're protecting the same guy that can't stand you, the guy that doesn't want to look at you, the guy that thinks you're a peasant, the guy that thinks you're an enemy to the people but wants to use you when he can. So for those reasons, I don't think they said a word. Not at all. Do I think it's leaked? Yeah, but not from there.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they care about the money. Remember these people, once they get into office, especially they view it as some sort of a lordship or kingship. So yeah, who cares about the money? It's my money now. It's not a people's money. I can do whatever I want. And if you need an example of that, just look a couple maybe a month ago now, a month and change. Remember, there was a massive wedding in Madison Square Garden that needed a large police presence in the area, and there's still questions left over about whether that police detail, the overtime incurred there, was paid for by Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And remember, Taylor Swift is a billionaire. She don't need the city paying for it. She can fund it all herself. She can drop an album right now and pay for 10 of those weddings, from her fans. So they don't need our money, but yet, it seems to me like the city itself covered the police detail there. So these people don't care about the money, even though the city is in dire financial straits. It's just these people are stupid, and they don't think long term. They're stupid and selfish. They think of their own ilk, and they don't think of the long term ramifications of spending that money. And you all should remember this now when they come and ask you to take a hit on your pension, because I keep saying it and I don't see any way of it not happening. And in fact, I watched a recent video from George Gammon. He runs this channel called Rebel Capitalist. Great channel, always breaks down a lot of these economics into kind of simpler terms for regular folks, right? He was talking about how the plan now is to put funded liabilities, to put funded pensions, to let them be the bag holder of garbage securities, okay, and to keep, because they need to keep the Ponzi afloat, okay, and because there's nowhere else they're getting the money, because everyone's starting to realize, even institutions, that this whole thing, the market is on Ponzi. But the point here is that at some point they're going to come and ask you to take the hit, and you should all remember things like this, because these are all costs that are unnecessary, and they should be paid for Mamdani himself and his wife, and he's already a multimillionaire too, by the way.
Yeah. If you take a trip right now with your family to Disney World, you're footing the whole bill, $15,000, $12,000, whatever it is. However high you want to upgrade or low you want to go, that's all on you and your salary, right? Taxpayers aren't paying for that. The little Nepo baby who's got a compound, he got a lot more money than you do, but yet you're paying for his trip. We're all collectively paying for him and his wife to travel the world. Look what Pat Donahue says here. Countries visited by former Mayor Eric Adams involving Intel EPU detail, Executive Protection Unit, for those of you that don't know, Ghana, Turkey, Greece, Israel, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Israel, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Mexico, China. Crickets from DEA President Scott Monroe. An Adams fundraiser then. And now all of a sudden, Scott Monroe, he gets himself out there. Not my guys. I ain't going to put my guys in harm's way. Yeah. What did we talk about last show, Scott? Because it seemed like you put a lot of your guys in harm's way. You didn't put your kids in harm's way, but you put your guys in harm's way, right? And you had no issue doing it. And we got one of you guys on the podcast here right now, and you did absolutely nothing for him. So Yeah, so that was another. Oh, let me jump on this and make it look like I'm fighting for my guys, and I could get out there, Mo. Let me make it look like I'm a union president. I don't think you're a union president. I think, as a matter of fact, I think all three of us have done more work for the rank and file of the NYPD and for public safety in New York City than all of your unions combined in the last 4 years. So just is what it is, you know. I see Shell's big mad today on Twitter. We'll get into that later, but he's another guy fighting reality. John, if you'd like, I'll send you the link when we discuss one of the new bills. You could jump up here with us.
No, he can't jump.
You're
He's got a
immediate
bad
talking
ankle.
head. You could have the floor, my friend. Let me know.
John, he can't jump. He's got a bad ankle.
True. Hobble.
Which John Chow we're getting? Getting a new one, or the one from a couple years ago?
Salvatore
This one,
Brecchi.
I don't know who this one is. I don't know who this one is. This was an interesting debate going back and forth online. I don't understand what the issue is, but whatever. Talk about it later. But yeah, but is Pat not right? Like, I mean, listen to all those countries. I mean, some of those we potentially go to war with at some point. I mean, Mexico. Do you think it's safe to go to Mexico? It's not safe to go to Mexico. It's not safe to go to the southern border.
It's safe if you're Eric Adams. You got the NYPD security detail, right?
Yeah, because he's probably protected by the cartels because he's whatever deals he was making with them.
Look, I just want to put into perspective just on cost. So it was 2017. My father was living in Florida, and my father had to go to a rehab center / nursing home. He got really sick, and at the time, my sister and my brother were very concerned. So we got him on it was a private flight with a nurse on the flight that took him to New York. We took him to Stony Brook and took him to the hospital there. And the total flight took 30 minutes with the nurse being there, and it would cost us a little bit over $15,000. We split it between me, my brother, and my sister at the time. And it was less than 30 minutes. So just to get an idea of like the cost associated with these type of things, it's astronomical. You talk about entire NYPD security detail. You talk about going overseas to a hotbed, and I'm sure they're flying luxury. I'm sure it's not a quick little flight, a small plane. I'm sure they have the best foods, the best amenities. This is a huge taxpayer burden. I'm sure they don't have the food from the potential city-owned grocery stores on the plane. I'm sure they have high-end food there. So, Marlon, I know you said before that they're stupid. I don't think they're stupid. I think damn well they're highly aware of what they're doing. I think they know damn well what they're doing. And it's greedy, it's selfish, it's freaking evil. That's what it is. It's bullshit.
But yeah, it's all of the above. But I think, I think, like, you look at Mamdani, he's a Nepo baby, okay? The guy's, this is his first legit job, okay? And I don't count being in the state assembly as it, because you can very easily hide behind your competent staff and being just amongst the other state representatives. It's much more easier to do it than as opposed to being the mayor, where you're the guy in front. When people look at the city of New York and how well the government's running, they look at you. They're asking you the questions at the press conference. So I think this is his first legit job. Remember, he spent his like 20s on mom's, hanging around mom and getting his job from mom, and he spent his early 20s trying to be a rapper. I mean, like, really? I mean, how do you pay the bills with that? Simple. He didn't need to, because he had the trust fund and he had mommy and daddy who were millionaires. And his net worth, I think, is like $10 million now. So he's good. So I think it's all the above, but there's a certain amount of stupidity that comes with being a Nepo baby, because you're detached from reality. You don't, you're detached from the concerns that regular blue collar people have, because if we don't go to work, real jobs, you know, who's paying our bills? We don't have trust funds from daddy.
Wait, Mo, are you talking about Mamdani or are you talking about Tish?
Well, yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, good point.
You know
I'm
what's funny,
sitting there
John?
and I'm going,
I was
holy
I was
shit,
thinking the
he's
same thing.
describing Tish too. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was a very good point. Very good point.
Detached
Dude,
from reality, like
Yeah.
don't know the regular struggles. I mean, look what my visual zone says. He said Tish should just announce she's running already instead of the charade leading shit to go after the mayor. Plenty to go after the mayor on. This isn't it. I mean, he brings up a great point. Could it have came right out of the police commissioner's office? Absolutely, it could have been. You know what? They're the only other ones. You know what I mean? It could have been a leak. Somebody leaked it. So, you know what? It's a great point. Somebody leaked it. And it does appear that she thinks that she's going to be the mayor and I didn't even think about that until you said completely detached from reality. It's like, oh my God, I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. I think, but I agree with both of you, actually. First of all, I think that he's an idiot. I do. I think he's really stupid. I do. 100%. But I also think there's that level of, I don't give a shit either. You know what I mean? I know this part's wrong. I mean, I campaigned on how wrong corruption in government was and how we weren't going to misuse taxpayer funds and we weren't going to be treated like, I forget what do I have? I have his stuff on top of my X. When I confronted him about you, Marlon, when he was on here. And I mean, just based upon the things he says, like, he should be against everything he's doing right now.
Yeah.
And of course my phone's not
Absolutely.
working right now, but I can't get his quote that I have on there, but I have a quote from him up there. And of course my phone's, I don't know what the hell's going on with it, but based upon what he campaigned on and how he's governing, Zohran Mamdani's campaign, the guy who was running for mayor, should be Mayor Zohran Mamdani's biggest critic. Because he literally reversed and he's doing everything that he said was wrong and everything that he said that he was going to eliminate in city government. All the thing he said in that fiery first day campaign speech, it was all garbage because he's doing every single thing that he said that he was going to fight against, and how the city was going to be different and the city was going to be for workers and he was going to empower the voice. And what we're seeing is that the boot that he says that was on all the workers' necks and the taxpayers' necks, which it is, what he's done is he's actually took his other foot off of it and put more pressure down on that boot on your neck. So so I kind of agree with both of you with it. I think he's super stupid, but I also think he's super arrogant, and we all looked at it as like the plebs.
Yeah. That there's no doubt about it. That part, I definitely think they look at us as plebs, as peasants, especially cops. I mean, I saw the dichotomy myself. I worked in the Lower East Side, and it was Lower East Side. I could be on Avenue D, and I was working in housing, and for many people there, a lot of residents, they look up to you, and they see you as as a great career path, and they say, you made it. You're somebody. But then you go up to Avenue A, First Avenue, and there's some elites walking around, and like they look at you as a complete peasant. And so one thing I totally agree. I do think they were detached from reality. I mean, I'm sure when Jessica Tish is hungry, I'm sure she just goes to DoorDash, or I'm sure she orders her food, or she goes and walks out to the store. I'm sure she does that, right? I'm sure Zohran Mamdani does the same thing. They don't have the milk delivered at their door, right? They have to go out and get the milk when it's going low. I'm sure when Jessica Tish makes her pot of coffee and it's going low, she walks to the store and gets some half and half, or gets herself some milk. But no, we know the reality is Jessica Tish probably has no idea what it's like to go to the store and buy groceries. She probably has no idea what it's like to do her own laundry. I don't know, maybe she likes to, but she's an elite. So is Zohran Mamdani. They're all cut from the same cloth. Can they actually relate to me, you, John, our friends and listeners here? Absolutely not. We live in two different realities, two different worlds. But I don't think that makes them stupid. I think they're highly aware of what they do, and it makes them arrogant. It makes them arrogant and ignorant. But I don't think they're stupid. They know damn well what they're doing. They know damn well Zohran Mamdani and his campaign knew damn well that all those promises that they made could never come to fruition. And there were promises that would fall flat in their feet, and promises that they could just blame on Eric Adams. And Eric Adams could blame it on former Mayor Bill de Blasio. And everyone's just playing the blame game and not taking the blame themselves. So I don't think they're stupid. I think they're ignorant, and I think they're evil. I think they're assholes. I think they know damn well what they're doing. And they look at us as all peasants, and they look at us as stupid because we don't live the life that they live. We live in this stupid low-level life here, with everyone else. We're just general population. There's a 3-tiered system in the NYPD, but there's also a 3-tiered system in the world for some of these elites. There's no difference.
Yeah. Just a quick tangent. I will forever say that Eric Adams was a missed opportunity, because he's many things, okay? But the one thing is he wasn't a Nepo baby, and he's a guy who came from a lot the situation a lot of us did. He didn't grow up with money. He wasn't born into money. So I always think it's a lost opportunity. He had a ground ball to be a great mayor and to have the support of everybody.
Yeah, but he was corrupt before that. He's always been corrupt.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. But I mean, in another reality, if there's a honest Eric Adams, that man could have been risen all the way up to president. Okay, because he can maneuver in both the worlds of the wealthy, and the elites, and he can walk into the projects and feel comfortable, and what, he squandered an opportunity on himself, and I hope that haunts him forever. I mean, can any of us see Tish, being comfortable talking to the plebs in the low income parts of the city? I don't. I don't. What's she gonna tell you that relates to you? Okay, she's been a billionaire since birth. Okay, her first job was in I think in the Post, and I think after that she became an analyst in the NYPD. I mean, really? I mean, how many people get a first job in a major newspaper, and then their second job is to be an analyst making 6 figures in the NYPD counterterrorism apparatus? You know, are we to think that she did all of this without daddy's help? Who daddy and uncle who was running the police foundation at the time? No, she didn't. Okay, so how's she gonna relate? I'm curious. If she thinks she could run for mayor, how does she plan to relate to regular folks? Okay, I want to see, because I think the minute she has to walk on the street and talk to regular people, or she gets questions from regular people, you can watch her face and watch her discomfort, and I think she has no shot of winning unless the media plans to completely lie about what her legacy, and completely lie about who she is, and completely throw up a smoke screen about it. She has zero shot of winning me. Okay, zero.
So you don't think that you don't think that the press right now is completely doing all of that surrounding her tenure as police commissioner? Like,
No,
they're already building it.
I
The
do.
whole thing's already building, and now you just gave her the perfect political strategy on what she needs to work on and what acting classes she needs to take, and now she needs to relate with working class people. So now I like her chances. They just raised it. Congratulations, Marlon. That advice could have got you about $1 million, and you just gave it away for free. Congratulations. And
it still
and
won't work out.
congratulations, Maya Tish.
It still won't work.
A voice for the working class.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look. To be fair, Mamdani did it.
Yeah, but Mamdani's
He
an
manipulated the people through social media and through wearing that ugly Borat-looking suit everywhere he went, like looking like, I'm one of you guys. I ride the train. I eat burritos on the train. Who fuck eats a burrito on the train? Do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like he did it. She could do it. It's like 100%, like 100% it could be done. It could 100% be done. So it's gonna be super interesting. But I do think everything that's being done right now is to set up for a mayorality for her. And I think when you think about it, it's out of touch with reality. But anything that you're gonna do before you do it is kind of always gonna be out of touch with reality, right? You know, it just is what it is. You know, like when you have an idea in your head and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go forward with this idea. I mean, if you present that to the world or people think you're doing it, what do they think they're doing? They think that business is going to be successful. They think anyone's going to listen to them. They think anyone's going to read that book. They think anyone's going to buy that movie script. You know what I mean? They think that stock's going to make a lot of money. Boom. And it does. And so it's usually the crazy people that get things done in the world. So I could just see it. And she's got the apparatus behind it. I agree with you, Marlon. Look, I didn't walk around Manhattan. I walked around Manhattan and see all the restaurants that I couldn't afford to go in, and the hotels I couldn't afford to stay in, and the office buildings that I wouldn't get picked to work in. And yeah, when I walked around, I didn't see my last name on every building in Manhattan. So, but one thing we know is the public is easily manipulated by media and by social media, and you just give a few good talking points, and that's it. I mean, like Mamdani, literally, he's like a one-trick pony. I mean, if you listen to him on this show and you listen to him today, he hasn't evolved. There's nothing else there. There's no substance behind anything he's saying. It's all jibber jabber, and people are still buying it hook, line, and sinker. These socialists are like, yeah, he's still for us. It's like, you didn't even get anything that you wanted. You didn't get anything. You didn't get anything that you thought was going to be good. You know, that's why I love when Jimmy Wagner, like he's like, you know, you voted for socialism. Like, get your socialism. Where is it? Like, you know, I think it's the funniest shit because he's so right. Where is the socialism that you guys voted for? Where is it? Where's that big socialist warrior? Oh yeah, no. He's like Eric Adams too. You know, he's just like Eric Adams. Now mommy and daddy don't have to pay for me to fly around the world. Now you, the taxpayer, can pay for me to fly around the world. And the issue with Adams is he's an arrogant person who has zero humility, zero self-reflection, like all of the people he surrounded with himself. Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, Ed Caban, you know, like all of the people that they surrounded themselves with. Yeah, they didn't come from anything either. But now they got these pensions coming in, they got some other deals, and they got some other jobs, and they think they're like all foo-foo fancy people. And it's like, bro, you forgot where you came from, dude. You don't know that the places you go sit down to and the people you sit down with dinner, they don't look at you like one of them. And they never will. They don't look at your kids like one of them, and they never will. Because you're not one of them. You're their plebs, and you're just like the house servants. That's all you are. You bring the grapes to the table. You make them laugh a little bit. Maybe you're a jester, but you're not part of the club. But Eric Adams thinks he's part of the club. John Shell thinks he's part of the club. Kaz Daughtry thinks he's part of the club. And you're not. You're plebs just like us. You just got a little bit more crumbs than us. That's all that is. And I would beg to differ. You probably don't even have a little bit more crumbs than us. So,
I think if Jessica Tisch runs for mayor, I actually think she could win by a landslide. Because, first of all, Marlon, this is your line. I'm using your line right now. We talk about myth building, and they've built a myth that Jessica Tisch, even though she's a billionaire, she's been a self-proclaimed data creator for the NYPD, the self-proclaimed technological advancement creator for the NYPD. She's been a self-proclaimed police commissioner, and she's been so innovative for sanitation. And she's been such an amazing police commissioner for the NYPD, and she's turned around corruption. And she's understood what the members need, even though she didn't walk that path. She was compassionate, and she showed empathy. I think that we talk about myth building. I think they built this myth for Jessica Tisch. So with that being said, I also think the reason why she could win by a landslide is because if we look at the entire world, New York City has the most millionaires or billionaires out of any city in the entire world. That's even when we put a comparison of rich countries in the Middle East. New York City has the most millionaires and billionaires that live there or has a residence or a business in New York City in comparison to any other city in this entire world. So I think that Jessica Tisch, with the money surrounding her and the myth building, they could buy her an election. So I do think she could actually win by a landslide. And I think this has all been calculated from the time that she came out of college, that she went into the New York Post, she went to the NYPD. This has always been a path for a political career. Her first job is with media, New York Post. She worked for the NYPD in advanced positions and being an initiator, creator for advanced technology. She goes to sanitation, gets a little run to be in a leadership position, comes back to the NYPD. I think there's no doubt about it. I say if she runs, she wins by a landslide. I'm not voting for her. I don't live in New York City anyway, but I think she wins. I think she wins by a landslide.
No way. I don't think she wins by a landslide.
You want to take that bet? You want to take that bet?
Let's do it.
$100. I got $100. Says she wins. If she runs, she wins by a landslide. Let me get my $100. Who's going to win? John Shell? Bad ankles?
Well, I don't know who's going to win. I mean, we're a long way off, and it could be a candidate.
$100.
You know, I mean, Adrian Adams could put a hand in the.
He ain't winning nothing. They're about to kick her out from lieutenant governor any day now.
Well,
you know, all the corruption shit that's coming out with her. She's been dead silent. We haven't even seen her campaigning. She hasn't been anywhere on the campaign trail at all. Adrian Adams ain't winning nothing. I'll beat Adrian Adams any day in any race.
Yeah, she's not a good pick for lieutenant governor, but in terms of the leftism and the tribal politics in New York City, I think she does stand a chance. You know, I mean,
she'd be a good lobbyist. Her and Joe Borelli would work well together as lobbyists. She's not a good. She's not winning nothing.
I mean, keep in mind, Eric Adams there was a cloud of corruption circling him before he even made borough president, and you know, he made borough president and then he made mayor after. So I just don't think that Tish is going to win, because I don't think she can relate to the people, and I think the times have passed where this kind of candidate was very Bloombergish, you know, if you know what I mean. Maybe a little bit less, because at least Bloomberg made, you know, he was the man in charge, you know, and he built his business, you know. What exactly did she build?
So you don't think Bloomberg's daughter can win?
I think the times of that has passed. Yeah, those days are over. I think I don't think I don't even think Bloomberg could win today in New York City, you know, if he was starting out right now.
I totally disagree with you. I think she could beat Mamdani in the Democratic primary.
I do.
I mean, that's right now. I'm not saying who's going to be the mayor, but I think she could take him in a Democratic primary. I do.
Well, a lot of
she's going to get all the Jewish support. She's going to get a lot of the Dem support. I like, honestly, you're going to really see how many of the DSA there are in New York City and how many there aren't. You know, you're going to see how strong the Democratic Party and again, like I said, I think in a general election, she would also beat him, because I think you're going to get a lot of that Sliwa Cuomo vote that's going to just vote for her. They're not going to vote for a Republican. They're just going to go right with her. So she's going to, you know, basically the GOP, they haven't put up a good candidate. So I don't think that the GOP or the Conservative Party will even run anybody. If they do, it's going to be like another lackey that they just will like, yeah, this guy's going to lose. We'll fundraise him around him. We'll all grift off him. We'll take all his campaign. We'll get him matching funds, and then we'll steal all that money. And yeah, I personally think, like, I'm just saying, if the election was right now, Mamdani would have a problem, dude.
I'm telling you right now.
If the election was right now, Mamdani would have a problem.
I'll take that bet.
And I think she could beat him 100%. And I agree with everything you're saying, Mo. I'm not discounting anything you're saying. You see it, I see it, Eric sees it, people on here see it. A lot of people don't see the things that you're talking about. They don't look at it like that. They're very superficial. They just see the headlines and they're gonna go off of that, and that's it. Tish will save us. Mamdani bad. And there's a lot of Mamdani bad now. He's not doing well out there. So I'm just saying, like, a lot of things could change from now to then. Right now, I think her stock is super high. And I still don't know what the hell she's waiting for to pull the trigger to leave the New York City Police Department, because, I mean, it's clear as day. I mean, the minute she leaves, the reporting is going to switch overnight. And mark my words, I've been saying this for months. The minute Tish leaves, crime is going to be through the roof in New York City, not because crime's going to be any different than it's been the last 4 years. It's going to be through the roof because now all of a sudden the media is going to start reporting about it again.
Jack Greco 61, brother. I don't agree at all. I think he says Zohran would destroy Tish. I think Tish destroys by a landslide. Let's first of all, let's talk about this. Who gets the vote for women in New York City? Jessica Tish. Who gets the vote from the Jewish community? Jessica Tish. Who gets the elites in New York City? Jessica Tisch. Who gets people that are kind of, not kind of unsure? They're not conservative, but they're not really they're not too far on the left either. Jessica Tisch. The only people that we're talking about right now is, does she get the working class families? Does she get the poverty? Maybe. I think she actually could. She could say, "Listen, I know what it takes for this city to make money, and you could have a more prosperous life." I think she wins by a landslide. I'm not kidding. I think she wins by a landslide because it's all been, Marlon, it's your line. They have been myth building Jessica Tisch for a long period of time right now. I think this has been calculated, as I said before. I think since the day she was born, it's been calculated by the family. But since she went to college, upon her departure from college, her entire career has been a political path. Think about it. New York Post, NYPD, sanitation, back to the NYPD. It's a game, and they're playing it pretty damn well. I think landslide win.
I mean, see, how does she appeal to young progressives on the left? And keep in mind, there are a lot of Jewish voters on the left too, who are anti-Zionist, and they look at her as another rich Zionist. Okay, so how does she appeal to those people? I don't know. Keep in mind, the right Jewish vote went to Cuomo, so he didn't win. So my question is, how does she, if she's going to get that Cuomo vote, how does she, how is she going to win? How are you going to get the other side? Because you need the other side contingent
but
of
what
the
I'm
other side
saying
to win.
is, look, it's all hypothetical. But what I'm saying is, they're going to split that Democratic vote, is what I'm saying, and she's going to get all the right vote. I'm saying that million votes that went to Zohran Mamdani is going to get split. Plus, she's going to get that Cuomo vote. That's what I'm saying. That's, if it was today, that's 100% happening.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
You're underestimating that somebody else could come up in a Mamdani style.
I said today. I didn't say this is a long way off. A lot of things could change. I'm saying right now, today.
Yeah.
Today, you run a field propaganda campaign. You get everybody out to vote. You'll have a bigger turnout than you did even in the last election, and Jessica Tisch will win because she's gonna command a lot of the Democratic vote and all of the Republican vote, and it's gonna and you're gonna get even more people out. So she's gonna get a lot more votes. That's all I'm saying. It's all hypothetical. No reason to even be talking about this. No reason to even be talking about this. Let's move on. Let's go over to Habib. We'll go for a commercial break at about an hour and a half. So just came out. We've been talking about it for a while. Like, we opened up before Marlon, as he was rudely late, and he made all you guys wait. We apologize for Marlon. But like we opened up before, Omar Habib, NYPD police officer, recently was the first NYPD cop charged under the Chokehold bill. Right? He was the first. I don't want to say he was the first indicted under the Chokehold bill. There were other cops that were charged, but they weren't indicted. Omar Habib was the first to be indicted under the Chokehold bill, and now he's the first officer to be convicted under the Chokehold bill. How it stands currently for New York City cops: Chokehold bill, or the diaphragm law, whatever you want to call it, it was passed in 2020 as a knee-jerk reaction to Floyd's death. Right? What happened in Minnesota had nothing to do with what was occurring here. Chokeholds were always banned for New York City police officers, as far as I was on. I think in the past that wasn't there. I think we could all make the case that police officers should be allowed to place individuals in chokeholds because it is an effective fighting tool. It's an effective control technique. It's a technique that's used in mixed martial arts every day, in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And it's, if done properly, there's nothing wrong with it. People get choked and choked out every single day in gyms across this country, including in New York City high schools. But what happened here is we made it illegal for cops to place individuals in a chokehold, resisting perpetrators. There is no exceptions. Guy's a terrorist. He has a bomb strapped to him. The only maneuver the cop could do is put that person in a chokehold. Doesn't matter. Cop's guilty of violating that law. Only NYPD cops. The law does not apply to anybody else. Doesn't apply to any other law enforcement agency. Doesn't apply to civilians. It only applies to NYPD police officers. So, and what New York City Council did is basically not only ban chokeholds, but they banned every basic control technique in wrestling and jiu-jitsu because they said you cannot even put pressure on a person's diaphragm, their chest or back. So, I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's impossible not to violate. It's like when you look at the NYPD's pursuit policy, right? In the past and even today, it tells you the pursuit policy basically, if you really read into it, the pursuit policy basically tells you to never chase anybody, right? Because you could never meet that. So basically, like, you're on your own. But it does give extreme circumstances and it has some direction. When we talk about the diaphragm law, there's zero exceptions. There's zero direction. There's zero training on how to take a resisting perpetrator to the ground. And think about that. You know, you're fighting for your life. Person could do absolutely anything to you. And you, as an NYPD police officer, are unable to deploy basic wrestling and jiu-jitsu techniques, basic principles of control, or else you'll be charged with a crime. We said for years, the minute this bill was even being discussed and it was rushed to pass, that they would wait to use this. And once they used it, it would open up the floodgates. And I think what happened is now they used it. And I would expect, you know, Omar Habib's going to be obviously go down in history as the first cop to be charged with this. He's now facing 7 years in prison. He's being held currently in Rikers Island, which is another travesty. And I suspect he's not going to be the last. There's going to be a lot more to follow behind him, unfortunately, because every video that we watch, ultimately, at some point, if the cops aren't able to overpower them, even the 6, the 7, the 8 amount of cops it takes now to lock up a resisting perpetrator as a result of this insane bill that New York City Council passed, they ultimately always wind up in violating the diaphragm law because there's no way to not do it. It's impossible. There's no way to take someone down to the ground without violating the diaphragm bill. And they call things chokeholds that aren't chokeholds. Anything you do around the head or the neck, the public now sees as a chokehold and sees that you're a criminal and you should be in jail.
Yeah, I think that's what's important about this. So, you know, it's almost like sometimes we hear woke progressives refer to every firearm as an assault rifle, and they really have no idea what they're talking about. And it's just semantics. I think the same thing comes when we talk about chokeholds. And, you know, I saw it myself in some of my CCRBs towards the end of my career when I was attacked by an overzealous civilian complaint review board. Anytime that myself or members of my team were involved in physical confrontations, if we were grabbing a perpetrator and our hands were anywhere near someone's neck immediately, the question was, did we restrain them from breathing? Did we apply any form of a chokehold? And I think that it's completely misunderstood, because if someone tucks their chin in and you're trying to get your arm around them, that's not a chokehold. But anytime we see anyone's hand get near someone's neck, immediately they're trying to prosecute a cop, whether it's for violating NYPD rules or actually taking to an actual courtroom. And this time for Officer Habib, he went to a courtroom and was convicted and now faces up to 7 years for strangulation. We're talking about a serious felony charge. And so this is absolutely ridiculous. We're taking away a tool from a cop. And it's very rare. I think it's very rare that anything we say never. But when it comes to chokeholds, you're never supposed to apply one, even if your life is, you think about it, your life is on the line. You're dealing with a large adversary who's much bigger than you. And I'm talking about for a cop. You can never apply a chokehold. So if your choices are apply the chokehold or have a knife go into your heart and die, your choices are to take the knife into your heart and die. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, yes, I trained jiu-jitsu for a long time, and over 300,000 people are choked. I looked up the numbers. There's some research, and just talking to some different instructors, and I knew we talked about this numerous times. Over 300,000 people on an average are choked out a year in training, and no one dies. Not to my knowledge. I've never heard of someone dying in training. doing jiu-jitsu. If anyone knows anyone that has sustained a death, I'd be curious. But what's the difference? The difference is you can have a violent perpetrator that has zero training, is not prepared to be choked. Right? That's the difference. When people are training in a training environment, those that are applying chokeholds or those that actually receiving chokehold in training are both training and are prepared for it. Now, it's different when you have a violent perpetrator. They may not be, their cardiovascular may not be good. They may not be training. So if a chokehold is applied to them, those type of violent perpetrators, yes, it can be deadly because they're not prepared for it. But guess what? Too bad. If you're a violent perpetrator and you haven't been working out or running and your cardiovascular is up, too bad. That's not our problem. This is the most ridiculous thing, that this is off the table. Chokeholds. Chokeholds should not be something that are routinely applied, but it should be something that's utilized if necessary. I don't care if you're a 6'7" football player. Everyone has a weak neck. And if you could grab someone by the neck and get them down to the ground and safely have someone in control and custody for the cop or someone else, that's what we should do. That's what we should do. But unfortunately, they took that off the table. And what they did was, by removing chokeholds and by implementing the diaphragm law, they put you, and they say you, the cop, in a vulnerable position to have to use brutal tactics, which look far worse with optics, by using strikes, and more brutal tactics than applying a chokehold or using chest-to-chest pressure. But again, we told people numerous times, you heard from Terrence taking knee Monahan in the NYPD, former chief of the NYPD, not to worry about these things. We can't be afraid of it. Go out there and do your job. Where is Terrence Monahan now to stand up for Officer Habib that may spend 7 years in jail? Well, nowhere to be found. Probably taking a knee right now at home. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, there's two things here that really bothers me about this. Number one is that, you know, since the diaphragm law, there's a lot of things that you can do. That there's a lot of things that are going to be interpreted as violating the diaphragm law. So as I said before, I said many episodes ago, you can't train around the diaphragm law. You just can't do it. You can't do judo moves. You can't. I mean, there's no way of getting around it, because in a melee, in a scuffle, trying to get the perp into handcuffs, you're going to inadvertently violate the diaphragm law in some way, because these perps are now emboldened to fight with you and to push back, and it eventually leads to a scuffle. And unless you're in a four-man, unless you're traveling in fives, okay, you're not going to be able to not violate the diaphragm law, which is why what I said think it was Wednesday or Monday, that we no, I said it on Wednesday on the executive perspective in the chat. I said we should get rid of solo foot posts. We should get rid of 2-man cars. From now on, we're gonna have 4-man patrol cars. Okay, it's gonna be 4 cops in it, because we need 4 cops to subdue a perp, to be able to restrain him and put him in handcuffs and not violate the diaphragm law. And even then, in those pylons, I still see the diaphragm law getting violated. So there's no way around it. The other thing that annoys me about this is that cops are low information. Okay, cops being in the low information bubble really, really pisses me off. Because a lot of times you're talking to them, and these discussions come up, and it's like, where are you, guy?
Spot on,
Why
brother.
don't you know about this? This is your job. If you violate this, you're going to jail. Okay, and I'm saying that because, look, one thing that has to be said is Omar appears to be a very active cop, or at least when a couple years ago, before they seem to have sidelined him. Because I look at where he was prior to being sent to PSA Viper. Viper is like the rubber room for you civilians watching this. It's where you sit and you watch cameras in the projects. Cameras that are watching the projects. Those cameras, right? It's our equivalent of the rubber room. Okay. Before this, he was in other administrative jobs, other positions where they sidelined you. So it looks like had he been still active, I'm pretty sure this Omar would be on 300 and change by now, if not 400, because he looks like a very active cop, right? So this annoys me. This is the article that came out around 2021 that specifically mentioned him and the chokehold, right? and there's a picture of him. You know, I believe this first picture on it might be yeah, your left
This
audience.
is not the incident though. The
The
one on the left is not the incident. The one
Oh,
on
it's
the
not
right.
incident. Oh, okay, okay.
The
Well,
one on the
I'm
right that's
mistaken.
showing a chokehold. The one on the left is Officer Omar Habib, but that's a 2017 incident, and that's
Oh, okay,
pre the
okay.
bill.
Uh-huh.
The incident that they're talking about happens in 2023.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. My mistake. Regardless, it doesn't matter because what I'm specifically noting here is that like a lot of cops are in a low information bubble, and they're not up to date with current events. They're not thinking long term what these current events, what the ramifications are on them, and how they should act accordingly. So if you knew that there are laws passed since Floyd, meaning the diaphragm law, for instance, you should think, oh shit, wait a minute, I got to change my tactics now. I got to have a different approach to these things now because if I screw up, they're going to throw me in front of wolves and I'm going to be indicted. Okay. So, but a lot of cops aren't thinking about this. You know, they're not thinking about any of these long-term ramifications. And it really just talking to a lot of cops now, I tend to keep my mouth shut unless a topic is specifically brought up because I'm gonna get annoyed because it's like why am I even why do I even bother? Because if you don't care to look up these issues on your own, why do I even bother talking about it? You know, if you're not gonna care for your own self, if you're not gonna you're not going to understand these issues for your own long-term sake, then it's a waste of my breath to mention it to you. So I don't bring up a lot of these issues, you know. Uh, but we keep seeing it here and it time and time again. You see, when we talk about cops and those pursuits, we warned you, you know, don't do those pursuits. Don't get involved in those. You're gonna get indicted. You're gonna get those lawsuits are coming. Sure enough, a couple days ago, there's an article about cops getting sued because of those pursuits. You know, it's like, where were you guys? Why aren't you guys paying attention to any of this? You know, if you don't understand these issues now, that's gonna be you in court in a year or two. That's gonna be you with that lawsuit looking to potentially being forced to sell your house in order to pay off those lawsuits. Okay, and that really bothers me.
Yeah. So this is a good. So again, this is not the video. This is 2017, but this is Officer Omar Habib, and they wanted him arrested for a chokehold here, and they were calling for his termination. Ultimately, kept his job as a result of it, and nothing really came out of it, and he went on. So the 2023 incident, they're saying that Habib deployed a chokehold, and I believe the testimony from the doctor was that he held a chokehold tight for 22 seconds, and he could see Officer Habib's vein in his arm bulging. Which I'm like, 22 seconds in a violent scuffle, you're going to see the veins in my arm bulging if I'm texting on my phone. If I'm doing this, you could see the vein in my arm, right? Like I'm not doing anything right now. I'm not doing anything. Like what does that mean? Like you for 22 seconds, so like we said, there's no exceptions. If it was 22 seconds or if it was a split second, doesn't matter. If they say you did a chokehold, you did a chokehold. Now what you're gonna watch here is I'm gonna say some really bad police work, and I'm not gonna. Maybe we'll go into it a little bit. I mean, maybe we should go into it a little bit because I think it's horrendous. You should never get in a fight in this situation. Should never get into a fight in an elevator. If you could avoid it, get out where you have room, especially where there's multiple of you. So I'm just going to say that now. I think tactically it was horrendous. I think the way Habib moved here looked immature, looked like it wasn't a team. He wasn't acting as a team player. And it just looked like some really bad police work. But I don't think you're going to see a chokehold. I don't think you're going to see what should have been down. So this was the original thing in 2017 prior to the new case where we don't have video on it yet. And some people were saying, if you read some articles, they said there really is no video depicting the chokehold. But there must be some video if the doctor is testifying to that his arm was bulging and you could see him hold it for 22 seconds. So this video came out from ProPublica in conjunction with the city newspaper. This is November 23rd, 2017, Wales Avenue residence security camera, right? Now, let's watch it. So, police violence. So I don't remember the whole story because it was a long time ago, but you see they walk in, Habib gets into the interaction with this gentleman here. I believe he was acting disorderly prior to this, possibly even trespassing, and somebody called on him. So, you know, what we're playing, and for those of you on audio, it says the surveillance camera can't hear anything. So there's no sound during this whole video. So there's this interaction. According to the NYPD internal affairs record, they go to leave. Habib goes to leave, and this guy calls them Keystone Cops, to which Habib turns around, charges back in the elevator at him, right? And now he begins to wrestle with the individual in the elevator with two other cops, and there's other cops on the way. Now, watch what they try to say as a chokehold right here. Look at that. 1, 2, they have it slowed down, but it's about 4 seconds. Another officer uses a taser, right? 6, 7, nope, nothing. It wasn't even 5 seconds. It wasn't even 5 seconds. That's what they wanted to be a chokehold, and they wanted him arrested for, while getting a resisting perpetrator. You could see the guy's clearly resisting. Now there's a huge pile on the elevator. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 cops inside the elevator, another 2 outside, another 3 outside. They're all trying to get in, and they're having a hard time getting this man who is completely resisting arrest, refusing to give the hand behind the back. Now there's 7 cops in the elevator, along with the passenger. There's an 8th cop trying to get in, and they eventually remove him. So, like I said, I think terrible police work, terrible tactics, but definitely not an illegal chokehold. Definitely not anything anyone should get arrested for. I mean, and you know, I think, you know, the standards to be an NYPD cop today, I think, are impossible. I think they're absolutely impossible. So what do you guys think about that interaction? I mean, I thought that was horrendous.
Well, let's talk about the key flashpoints here, right? So the first key flashpoint, I think, is, yes, terrible tactics, absolutely immature. It's not good police work. Not good police work to confine yourself into an elevator and then kind of turn your back to walk out and then, you know, get hook, bait, line, and sinker to go back into the elevator. I mean, it's stupid, but that's really a conversation for his supervisor. That's a conversation for his evaluation and his evaluation throughout his career and his level of maturity. That is a conversation, but that's not the conversation we're having right now. We're talking about, was this an actual chokehold? We're not questioning his tactics. We're not questioning his ability. I think it was lacking there. It could definitely be much more mature, better police work. But that's a conversation for the supervisor, and that happens, right? Young cops, that's why they need mentors and they need supervisors. Unfortunately, they don't have mentors on the job anymore. They don't have that veteran apparatus to do that. But the question was that a chokehold? It wasn't really a chokehold, and that's the problem. I watched that. I looked at that. If you slow that down, he's not really cutting off his airway. All right, there's 2 types of chokeholds. There's a blood choke, and then there's also a choke that you cut off the trachea, or you could refer to as an air choke. And I didn't see either one. All right, and that's the stupidest thing by a doctor, because if you're training properly, jiu-jitsu, I can apply a chokehold and you won't see any veins popping out. I won't be putting any emphasis on my arms. It's going to be applied because there's no suction between the neck and the arm. I don't have to put any strength into my arm. It's just a stupidest thing. Also, the average chokehold, if applied properly, someone will lose consciousness with 16 to 15 seconds. 6 to 15 seconds. So if he's applying a chokehold for 22 seconds, it's not even an actual proper chokehold, and he's probably not blocking off his airway or getting a blood choke. So what is a blood choke, right? The blood choke is someone goes to sleep, or an air choke is exactly that. They can't breathe because you're cutting off the trachea. But a lot of times what it actually is a neck crank. Someone's you're cranking the neck, but not actually cutting off the airway or stopping the blood. And unfortunately, what I saw with CCRB, and we see that if a cop's hand goes anywhere near the neck, they're looking to prosecute that cop, whether it's through NYPD violations, through a civilian complaint review board, or politically in the courtroom with an actual charge. So what's interesting about this also, Marlon, you said that the cops are not aware of it. I think that the cops are highly aware of it. You watch numerous videos. We see videos time and time again, and we see cops, they're aware of the diaphragm law and they're aware of the chokehold ban. We see cops involved in physical confrontations, and it just happens inadvertently where their hands go near their neck, and we see them pull their own hands away, or someone else pulls their hands away, or we see someone wrestling with someone on the ground and they're not applying any pressure chest to chest, and they're kind of dancing around them, and that's why the adversary is able to pop up, because they're not putting any pressure chest to back or chest to chest. So I think the cops are highly aware of it. I think it hinders them from doing their job. And unfortunately, even with an excessive amount of training, it's going to happen chest to chest pressure, because in order to get control of someone, you have to pin their hips or pin their shoulders or both. Same thing. If you're dealing with a large adversary, in most cases, if in a tough physical confrontation, naturally, even without any training, you see in the schoolyard often, right? You ever see two kids get into a fight, like two kids like 8 years old or 10 years old? John, Marlon, what happens? They put each other in a headlock, right? That's what kids do without any training. So, and you could say it's sort of a chokehold, right? It's just natural, even without training. So I just think it's the most ridiculous thing that cops with training or without training are expected in the most volatile, vulnerable situations to not put any pressure near the neck or any chest-to-chest pressure. It's the most ridiculous thing. It puts cops in harm's way because they're extremely vulnerable. And I think cops are highly aware of it.
Yeah, that was. I should have made a distinction between what I said. A distinction between rookies and cops with time on, especially the active cops with time on. The rookies know that because it's been drilled into their head in the academy, and they're just fresh out the academy. The guys with time on aren't aware of any of this. They're not paying attention to any of this. Okay, they've gotten to a point in their careers where it's full steam ahead with being an active cop, and I don't think they kind of these news events. I don't think they look at long term. They don't look at what are the ramifications on my tactics or how I approach it, and maybe they get a little bit of tunnel vision for their you know that make that they kind of ignore all of this going on. When we see these melees where the cops are just are afraid to we see these incidents where cops are afraid to put their hands on people. The stops that they have, they're afraid to really toss the perp. Those are rookies, you know. So it's my mistake for not putting that distinction on it. I think that that video may kind of give us a little bit of Habib's mentality. I mean, if the perp, I mean, what else did the perp do? Did he have a warrant? He just made a comment about them being Keystone cops. I mean, why? I need more than that for me to go hands on with you. Yeah. So what you call me a mother F F this or whatever. That happens all the time. So what? I kind of, especially in this atmosphere, I need more than that to go hands on with you. Yeah.
So the tactics instructor from the medical division, the author, the playwright, Juju, he says that maybe just use actual leverage, basic joint manipulation, and standard team tactics like you were taught since day one. See, the problem is, Juju, is like if you actually ever did any of this stuff, what you would understand is when you use joint manipulation, like when you grab someone's arm and bend it, and you use their elbow and you bend it backwards, right? And you get their arms and you get compliance. The next thing that happens is you take them to the ground, right? And when you take them to the ground, you are pressing and putting pressure on that diaphragm in order to get them handcuffed. whether it be by kneeling, sitting, or putting your chest, arm, or hand on their back in order to now continue further leverage. And so are other officers there. You can't just use joint manipulation and never go to the ground. In some scenarios, you can't even get to joint manipulation without first getting from the head. So, I mean, we appreciate you weighing in and commenting, but you really sound like an idiot, and it's amazing that you are a lieutenant in the New York City Police Department. It really, like, this is the problem in the New York City Police Department, is that the thing is, you can use joint manipulation, but it's going to be coupled with breaking the diaphragm law. 100%. Like 100% of the times. The most effective way to not violate the diaphragm law, you want to hear it? I'll tell you. It's really simple. You take a closed fist and you punch the person in the face over and over again in the face until they give up and they say stop and they put their hands behind their back. That's the only way to overcome it. Or pain compliance. I punch you in your ribs enough until you give me your hands. I punch you in the face enough till you give me your hands. I whack you with my nightstick, or I hit you with the taser long enough till you give me your hands. And even with the taser deployments, you consistently see violations of the diaphragm law. If there was a way to work around and train around the diaphragm law, there would have been training that has came out. But there hasn't been any training that's came out as a result. And so here's the thing. Think about this. Now, look, I'm going to say right now, it appears that Omar Habib needed some serious retraining, and probably the people that worked with him. And I'll agree with you, Marlon. I think that what I watched there, again, was horrible police work. I didn't see the incident that he was arrested for. I didn't see the incident that he was charged with. So it'd really be unfair for me to talk about it. But the one thing I can say is that Omar Habib was effecting an arrest of a resisting perpetrator, a physically resisting perpetrator. Now, whatever he did, threw the guy in a chokehold, punched him in the face, we could have a conversation about excessive force. It's excessive. It's unreasonable. We could have a conversation when we see that video around it. Yeah, this isn't right. This is not correct. But now to sit here and say, you know what? Omar Habib should be remanded to Rikers, unlike those 3,000 guns that New York City the police department pulled off the street the first 6 months. All the perpetrators that had those, they weren't. The overwhelming majority of them were not remanded to Rikers. So you want to say it was unreasonable, it was excessive? Okay, maybe. I'd like to see the video. It's very curious in today's day and age that we haven't seen this video, that this video is not plastered everywhere. Yet the trial happened, and now he's being convicted, and he's remanded to Rikers, and we still haven't seen this damn video. And I'm thinking, because when you see that damn video, it's going to look something like this. It's not going to look like much of a chokehold. And that's why you're not going to see the video, but it might be easy to convince a judge and a jury that, yeah, he violated the diaphragm law, the chokehold law, and that's all we're worried about here. And now you got this kid who's facing 7 years in jail because he more than likely responded to a 911 call and attempted to effect an arrest against a resisting perpetrator, and it didn't go perfect. I mean, you want to say maybe he should lose his job. Okay. Jail? I mean, where's the video? Release the damn video, right? Police Commissioner Tish, are you there? Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Are you there? Don't you think the public should see that? Forget the public. Don't you think your officers should see what they're up against? Don't you think your officers should know what they can and can't do in a physical confrontation today? Because I don't think they know. And I think if you watch all these videos, you could see that they clearly don't know. They flop around. Again, arrest of resisting perpetrators used to take two people, sometimes 4. Today, they're taking 8, and you still violate the diaphragm law. Release the damn video. We want to see it, and release Omar Habib. He doesn't belong in jail, regardless what that video shows.
John, before I go, let's go to our sponsor.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so everybody, thanks for joining us this Friday. It's time from a message over at our partners at Kalshi. We make predictions every single day about pop culture, the economy, and the biggest storylines, the biggest story making headlines. Kalshi is America's #1 predictions market platform. It lets you trade those predictions in a live market. Who will be the 2028 U.S. presidential election winner? Right now, J.D. Vance becoming the 2028 presidential election winner is currently trading at 18%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $498. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code FINEST to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. And for those of you that are interested in it, you could take your phone, scan the QR code right below, and when you trade $10, you get $10. So I saw a lot of people had commented that they've won. Congratulations. And there's a lot more. There's a lot of stuff out there. Just look it up. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate Kalshi for the partnership. And if you support this channel, help support our partners over at Kalshi as well. Appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. I think Kalshi is pretty cool. I'm out in Vegas right now. I see Kalshi all over the hotels on the strip. It's pretty cool. So with that being said, I think that Habib right now is being prosecuted for immaturity and for being a cop that they just don't like. I've said it quite often also. Where is that video? Let's see the video. Now, yes, in that video, was there a level of immaturity? Yes. Was the tactics bad? Yes. But on any job, you grow and you get evaluated. And I don't think that means he should be terminated either. Just because he's shown a level of immaturity and some bad tactics, this is something that needs to be handled by his supervisors or his mentors, right? I mean, because clearly it also seems like he wants to do police work. He wants to be intrusive. I mean, that's what we need right now. We need outliers. We need people that are out there that actually want to do police work. To me, it just needs some fine tuning with the right supervision and the right mentors. I think that kid could be on track. But I think he's also being prosecuted for being a cop that they don't like, for being what they consider an aggressive cop. And really what it is, it's a cop who has a level of immaturity that just needs the right direction. That's what I see based on these videos. Of course, they like context, but that's why I think he's being prosecuted. Where is that video? Because I watched that video in the elevator numerous times, and I don't see a chokehold that we could definitively say that was applied properly. And again, I said it could be a neck crank. It could be a chokehold that's applied but doesn't actually do the job, because people do it often. Anyone that does jiu-jitsu, and any of our friends and listeners, if you do jiu-jitsu, if you're in a training program and you're doing jiu-jitsu and you choke someone and they don't tap, usually people stop and train. They say, hey, what's going on? What did I do wrong? Why did you not tap? Because even though your arm is around that person's neck, they may still be getting air because you haven't actually made that connection between your actual arm and their neck, cutting off the blood or the air. So just because your arm is around someone's neck, it doesn't mean it's actually effective. And at that point, we're talking about it was around 5 seconds, John, I think you counted. And I didn't see him gain full control. And you still see his legs moving. He's moving around a lot. If a choke is applied properly, you'll see the lower limbs start to move less, because the body starts to calm down and either go to sleep. And you can tell by his body movement that he's still fighting, that the chokehold was never actually effective and never applied properly. And so this is absolutely ridiculous. Again, if your hand goes near an adversary's neck, the Civilian Complaint Review Board is looking to prosecute you on the political spectrum. And what's interesting about this case, it was his civilian complaints that were held against him in his case, why he was also prosecuted, because his past civilian complaints. So again, where is Mike LaPetri, the jellyfish, to stand up for him? Because Mike LaPetri has 16 complaints himself. But yes, we showed you how we could say Mike LaPetri was a good cop. That's why he's got complaints. How for some it's a mitigating factor, and for people like Habib and myself, it's an aggravating factor. So I don't see a chokehold applied properly. I would like to see this video. And again, I'm going to say that I think this cop is being prosecuted for a level of immaturity and being an aggressive cop they just don't like. Now, that was 2017. How is he operating 2023? Did he progress? Did he become more of a mature cop? I would like to see that, because I think he was still in their sights as far as the civilian complaint review board as being a quote unquote bad cop, at least in their eyes. So I would like to see that video and see exactly what transpired there. And I'll make the speculation right now. It's probably very similar, because I watched Habib, and unless he started training, I could tell that that choke wasn't something that it was trained. It was just a natural response. So he's not applying a chokehold properly. Again, he's being prosecuted, in my opinion, because he's a cop they just don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. Juju says, when somebody dies in custody because of positional asphyxia, nobody wins. A life is lost, a family is shattered, and the department catches a massive lawsuit and a PR disaster that undoes 10 years. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, because everything's been undone. But I will agree like this. When someone's handcuffed and on their back or on their chest, absolutely, you should roll them to their side to promote free breathing, and you should get the F off of them. When someone is actively resisting arrest, they're going to be put in pretty bad situations with the cops. You know why I was never in fear of asphyxia when I got arrested? Do you know why I was never in fear of being asphyxiated when the cop stopped me? Because I was compliant. I didn't fight with them. Do you know how many times I was cuffed and not arrested? A lot. You know what I did when they told me to put my hands behind my back? I did it. So you know who's never under threat of dying in police custody? People that don't resist arrest. People that don't fight with the cops. You know, I agree with you. Terrible situations. But you're a lieutenant, Juju. And not only are you a lieutenant, you're the smartest cops, apparently. Like, you're the most highly educated cop that's ever been in the NYPD. You're an author, a playwright, an actor, a model. You are all these things. But you obviously were never an active police officer. You were actually never an active supervisor. Because if you were, you would know. You would know that if there was something that was effective tactically, there would be a training about it. There would be a patrol guide order about it. They would have numerous NYPD executives traveling across the country, retired now, and they would be experts in it with their big, huge, fat bellies, and they'd be like, yeah, look at me. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to do. This is what I did. And now you don't see that. You know why you don't see that? Because there is no training that could train around the diaphragm wall. Hoist Gracie tried to do it. Not Hoist Gracie, the other Gracie, Rena Gracie, or whatever, however you pronounce his name. He tried to do it. The rap system starts on the floor. Starts on the floor. Oh, you guys I'm going to license this to use. How do you get him to the floor? How do you get him to the floor? I mean, this is the family that invented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're going to license you a rap system that can only be trained, and then this is safe, and it starts on the floor. If there was a training around it, do it. How do you control somebody? How do you control a resisting perpetrator in a scenario where it either starts in there is no way that it's going to start. It's not a cordoned off classroom environment. There's no instructors there. There's no anybody there. You are in the environment consistently changing. The situation consistently changes. The ability of the perpetrator, the size of the perpetrator, where you're at, how you start, how the fight ensues, the threats that are there. It's an ever-changing environment. How do you control somebody physically when you outlaw the basic techniques of control that are deployed every day in jiu-jitsu gyms and wrestling classes and every other type of self-defense classes throughout the world every single day? You can't. That's why there's no training in it. That's why you're in the medical division, hurting good cops while making sure that these bosses get nice, good write-ups for their ankle injuries, right? Guys that get pushed down the stairs really want to take care of their family, you're making sure that all their overtime bleeds out before they get 3/4. Or people that deserve 3/4, you're threatening them with they're going to get surveyed off the job, right? For injuries that they sustained in the line of duty, but you're going to sit there and be a suck pump for the executive. So you're right where you belong, which is far away from police work, obviously.
You know what's interesting? Juju makes it sound very cookie cutter. You just use joint manipulation. You just put your arm in this spot, and that's it. You just get them in handcuffs. Now, it sounds all fun and dandy, but here's the reality, and anyone knows this. When you're training, if you're in a training environment, you're training so that you do something to 100% efficiency and 100% accuracy. And the reason why you train it to 100% accuracy is because if you play it out in real life, it's never going to be 100%. It's going to be about 60 or 70%. That's why you want to train things over and over and get it proper, because in real time, it never comes out 100% accurate. And I see it often, even if anyone who trains, if you watch UFC, we're talking about guys that train constantly, right? They'll go out and train 6 to 8 weeks in a camp before their fight. And even when you watch in a fight, they'll do things wrong. So here's someone who's training over and over, and they'll do things wrong. So it's the same thing for cops. When you're trying to get to someone who's a violent perpetrator, right? Now, ultimately, you train because you train so often so that when someone makes moves and someone is fighting, that there's a level of predictability, just as if you would play chess. If me and Marlon, let's say we were playing a game of chess, or me and John were playing a game of chess, the whole point of being good at chess is being able to predict what the next moves are so that you can actually win. The same thing goes with fighting. You want to be able to train so that you can predict what someone's going to do. And when cops are not training, there's a level of unpredictability. And not all perps do things that are predictable. And so you see hands all over the place, and it gets messy, it gets ugly. And that's why hands end up on people's necks and chest-to-chest pressure, even if they don't mean it or intentionally trying to do it, because it's all part of the unpredictability. So this is absolutely ridiculous to handcuff cops. And, I agree, John. I think that's a fantastic point. I don't think we should choke someone who's already in handcuffs, or if someone's in handcuffs, to lay on top of them to where they can't breathe. But we're talking about someone that's given resistance. And this idea to inhibit cops, to give cops rules when an adversary or a violent perpetrator doesn't have rules, well, that's not a level playing field either. It's absolute most ridiculous thing. So the reality is, if someone wants to kill a cop, you can kill that cop, because if their only chance of survival, and if they can't get to their gun, think about it, they get to their gun and shoot someone, God forbid, to use that as a chance to survive, they have a better chance of not going to jail than if they actually apply a choke, which in turn could actually stop an adversary and more likely not kill that adversary. So it's the most ridiculous thing. It really is. It's absolutely crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, a lot said there. I'm gonna say that maybe you guys shouldn't have even acknowledged Juju on that, because the thing is, if you look at Juju's comment, that comment reads as somebody just read to you, the patrol guy, read to you. He just read the academy guide to you. Oh, we're gonna manipulation and with his fancy vocabulary. When he talks, I'm sure if you speak to him in real life, Juju sounds like those executives who bloviate for like hours and they don't really tell you anything, but they have a large vocabulary. They give you all the fancy terms, and they I've watched a lot of these, and I'm like, speak English, dude. Okay, nobody wants to hear these fancy terms. Speak plain English and break it down for the audience to hear. Okay, but you're just speaking for an hour, giving us fancy terms, and you're not really saying much of anything. Okay, and that's exactly what Juju's comment reads like. And his other comment you just pointed at, John, is clearly him virtue signaling. Okay, I'm sure he after he typed that, he was like, man, that was good. That was good. Look at me. I'm so virtuous there. I'm so, look at me. I'm just so great. Look at that comment I just made. But you see, and by the way, it's been a while, but last time I checked, Juju does have a good amount of college, so he's at least better than a lot of these executives that we've talked about before, who have nothing, who did nothing as cops. I saw
Wait,
Juju has a good amount of
wait, but
colors.
wait, hold on. Time out 1
But
second.
wait,
Time
John.
out, though. Time out. There's a big difference between getting pickup arrests and answering
Yes,
911 jobs or locking up
exactly.
women for one drink or getting 511 arrests. There's a big difference between taking a collar and making a collar. Juju
Exactly.
was 100% a taker, not a maker.
Exactly. I was gonna get to that. Okay, just because you have a lot of collars on there, I'd love to know what exactly those collars were for. Because like I said many times before, when I was a rookie and I just got thrown into a patrol car at midnight, I finally got it. Finally got the partner willing to jump out, get out his car, and stop people. We're like two rookies, and it's like, again, NYPD training is piss poor. So how do we eventually get to guns? Eventually get to crack? You know, we have to start at the ground floor. We have to start at the 511s and then elevate to the DWs and then go to the felony car stops. Okay, you have to learn somewhere. But at a certain point, when you get all these 511s and DWs, you're like, this ain't working, man. We came on here to be cops. I came on here to get the real bad guys, and you gotta take it to the next level. So even if you show me that you got a ton of collars, I'd love to know what collars you got, because like John just said, just because you can have a ton of pickup petty larcenies, holding ones, but what the hell does that mean? That doesn't mean you were a good cop. And also, right? John mentioned a while ago that why isn't Tish saying anything? Well, we just answered why Tish isn't going to say anything, because if she plans to be mayor, she already has a tough shot against these young leftists. So is she going to say anything now? Push back to it? Nope, 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 nope. Habib's on his own. And the same thing with the unions. Same thing with the fraternal organizations. None of them are going to say a damn thing. Okay. The Muslim Society, who's now in bed with Mamdani, clearly, are they going to say anything for Omar Habib? Not a chance. Not a chance. Okay. And what I was going to say, and if you ask most of these chiefs behind closed doors, I bet you they're going to say, well, it was a chokehold. It looked like a chokehold to me. You know, you know, ask Rodney now, ask Corey now about George Floyd, and they still think fentanyl Floyd was he had a knee on his neck. Even after we know what happened in Minneapolis, they're still running with that myth. They're still running with the myth that George Floyd, that Eric Garner was choked. You know, regardless of it. So if you ask the Chiefs now, they're gonna say, yeah, it was a chokehold. It was a chokehold. So Habib is on his own.
Yeah. Look at Mr. Grayley. He brings up a great point, right? He says, you guys are talking about the diaphragm law, but the top count was a felony strangulation. So that's a great point, right? Oh, he was charged with felony strangulation. The only reason he was charged with felony strangulation was because of the diaphragm law. Police officers are given a lot of leeway on using force, right? When affecting arrest of a violent perpetrator, you are actually authorized to use force by law. By law, you could deploy force. By law, any other where in this country, well, not any other way, but many other states, a police officer could use wrestling, jiu-jitsu techniques, chokeholds, bring a person down to the ground and lock them up. Not in New York City. So when they find you guilty of violating the diaphragm law, that means that now you are outside of your training. You're no longer deploying authorized physical force. And now that opens you up for everything else in the penal law to be charged with. I mean, like, just perfect example of it is if you're allowed to punch somebody in the face should they be resisting arrest and you deem them as a threat and you think that is your best force alternative at that point was to punch the guy in his nose. You're allowed to do that. Cops do that every single day and they don't get arrested for assault or felony assault if they break the individual's nose or the jaw. But yet that happens every single day. Why? Because they act in accordance with the law and with their training. Now, if I put a bill out there in city council and I say cops could never punch anybody in the face, I don't care what the scenario is. I don't care if they're a terrorist running with a bomb. They're about to click the thing. Your last resort option is punch him in the face. You can't punch him in the face. Boom. Guess what happens? Now you punch the guy in his face. You break his nose. You get charged with my punch bill, right? You get charged with that. Now that gives the precedent that you violated your training. You violated the law. You acted outside the accordance of your official duties. And guess what else you're getting charged with? Felony assault. So it's a great point, but you got to understand he was only charged with felony strangulation because of the diaphragm law. Without the diaphragm law, it would have been ridiculous to charge a cop who was taking part in his training, performing an authorized technique, a move, a basic control function or technique. And again, I'm saying we're not seeing that video because they love to show you. They love to show you all the choke videos. They love to show you when a cop does really bad. They're not showing you that video because I guarantee it looks like the 2017 video where it was about 2 seconds, did some type of head neck control, and that's it. Oh, but his bicep was bulging and you saw his vein in his arm.
You know, there's another flashpoint here. I think it's important to discuss, and people don't often discuss it. So Article 35 of the New York State Penal Law, Criminal Procedure Law, is what gives cops the ability to use force, right? It just, and all it says in Article 35 is that cops have to use a reasonable, objectable amount of force. It doesn't say what type of force. So this idea to delineate and differentiate what force should be used and what force shouldn't, I think is the most ridiculous thing. And again, this comes from city council people that have never been involved in a physical confrontation their entire lives. Same as Juju. I highly doubt that any of those collars that were handed to him came with a physical confrontation, because to just say, oh, joint manipulation, you've never trained in your day. Try, you know, John's a big dude. Try manipulating his elbow and his joints. It's not going to happen. You know, even in a team effort, you have to soften up your adversary. You know, that's absolutely ridiculous. And how do you soften someone up? By using strikes, right? By using maybe leverage of the neck, by getting someone who's bigger. You know, this idea of joint manipulation, I think, is the most ridiculous thing. Now, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I always stay in shape. If you grab my arm and try to twist it to grab my elbow, it's not going to happen. If you just do, it's not going to happen. And John's got big arms, so you're not going to just grab his elbow and manipulate his arm with joint manipulation. It's the most ridiculous thing. But how do you get, you know, in these team tactics? You know, it sounds cute, Juju. I know I know we don't acknowledge him, but it is fun. I like to acknowledge him for fun because it just shows you the mindset. Juju's mindset is the same thing as the upper management, the NYPD. Oh yeah, you know, he did use a chokehold. Why didn't you just use joint manipulation? What's in the patrol guide? You have never had a physical confrontation with an adversary one day in your life if you ever use that terminology. I train right now, Juju, and I could probably get you in a manipulation in less than a second. I probably could choke Juju out in 5 seconds from start to finish. And yet, here's someone who says, oh, just joint manipulation. Most ridiculous thing. Because it comes from people that have no knowledge at all. It really is scary to say that in Article 35, you can use an objectable amount of force, a reasonable amount of force, but to say what force you can use. So think about that. Your firearm is more of an acceptable tool than you putting your hands around someone's neck to stop a large adversary. So think about that. If a small female cop is potentially involved in a physical confrontation with a violent perpetrator, that she potentially could lose her life, that if she was to apply a chokehold, rhetorically speaking, she could find herself in jail. But if she shoots him, God forbid, to save her own life, well, then she might actually be getting an award. So think about the dichotomy there. I think it's pretty, it's idiotic. It's idiotic what goes on in New York City. I've never been, I've traveled throughout the entire country. I've never been to another city, a town, a state in this country where they have rules on what type of force the cops can use, except for New York City. It's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, you know what? When somebody just sounds like they're reading out the patrol guide to you, for you civilians, well, the patrol guide or in general, if they sound like they're reading out their department's uh, um policies, right? Then that's somebody who you should look at and think, how much time has this guy actually spent on the street? Now, if that person could break it down in plain English to you while still being able to read out while still be able to talk about the department policies with their fancy terms, then that guy is a guy who knows his shit, because you should look at that guy as somebody who's been on the street and somebody who's gone into the executive ranks, but so now he's reading to you that part of it. But when I hear somebody exclusively reading out department jargon, I think that guy probably hasn't spent much time in the streets. He spent most of his time reading out the books and being in cushy gigs where he has the time to read out those books. And by the way, I think Juju is in there probably so he could study more. It's probably so he could rake up some more degrees, or maybe have time to study for the captain's test, and move on. Not act, because if you wanted to remain a cop, even though he's now a lieutenant, right? Right? If you're in a precinct, if you're in a active unit, you're still a cop, okay? He wouldn't be there, right? But he's there now, okay? So I don't think we should put much stock into anything he says. And by the way, one last thing before we go back to Omar. Um, the thing, Omar should have seen that when he first appeared in this newspaper. This was in 2021, right? ProPublica. I think he was also in Was this ProPublica? I think this is from ProPublica. Anyway, he should have seen that once he appeared in this newspaper, that I might be a target. Okay, because I think that they were looking to get him, since your name appears there, that you should already figure, I got a target on my back. I got to be careful with what I'm doing. And this incident itself happened in 2017. He's in a paper in 2021, and then the other incident happens in 2023. So, dude, for you guys out there, if you appear in a newspaper, you've got to and you're especially in an active unit, maybe it's time for you to consider moving on to a different unit. Maybe it's time for you to become an investigator, go into squad work, because especially in this environment, you're going to be a target. God forbid you get into another incident that they can misconstrue as being some violation of the law, right? In this case, the diaphragm law. They're going to make an example out of you. Okay. So this is why I brought up the fact that cops, especially active cops with time on, are not paying attention to these issues. Because if you were, you'd have been like, oh shit, I'm in the paper now. They're gonna be looking at me. I gotta be careful. And this is why I also say, if I go back, if any of us go back, we're gonna have to do things differently. Because now that we talk about the morons who in government, you can bet that the minute we get into some incident that goes sideways, that could be misconstrued, they're gonna be making a phone call to Darcel Clark, or the idiot in Brooklyn, or the other moron in Manhattan, Bragg, to try and get us indicted.
I just want to answer this comment here. It comes from one of our friends here. My greatest enemy 718. Hey, welcome to the channel. I've never seen your name before, but he says, I feel that all cops should be trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So here's my thoughts on it. Someone that actively trains, and I've been training for years. If you like Jiu-Jitsu, yes, you should be involved in it. But I think as a requirement, I don't think every cop has to learn Jiu-Jitsu. There's a lot of Jiu-Jitsu that's fantastic, but as a cop, I don't want to be laying on my back fighting with someone unless I have to. But what I do think, here's what I do think, what should be mandatory for cops. Because if you train jiu-jitsu and you like it, God bless. I don't think every cop has to be a blue belt. I know some police departments now require to be a blue belt, and on the average, it takes two and a half years to become a blue belt. And you have to really like it, and God willing, not get injuries along the way to get to that point. But what I do think they need to teach cops is, one, how to get up. Something that you learn in jiu-jitsu is that, God forbid, someone gets you to the ground, how to get up. And two, how to hold someone down. And I think that's the most important key elements of jiu-jitsu that cops have to learn. I don't think you have to learn jiu-jitsu, even though I love it, but I think that's what cops really need to to learn is how to stay on their feet, how to, if someone knocks you down, how to get up, and if you need to hold someone down, how do you hold them down? But unfortunately, with the diaphragm law, it makes it virtually impossible to hold someone down.
Yeah, I agree though. I think that cops should be proficient in the use of force though. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and a mix of all of those. You know what I mean? And it coupled in with tactic, with you having a gun on your hip and, you know, being in, like, wearing some stuff that's going to hinder you. So I think all cops should be trained in the use of force. But to say like they should train in jiu-jitsu, I mean, again, should they train in wrestling too? Yeah, they should. But like I said, if you deploy the basic control techniques in there, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. So I mean, it could work against you. What happens in police work? He says he's a retired cop, he's purple belt. What happens in police work all the time? It's like the same thing that would happen out on the street, right? You're standing around, you're joking around with your partner, or you're joking around with somebody else, or you're talking to someone, and next thing you know, you're like, oh shit. And your adrenaline starts flowing and your frontal lobe shuts down. And what do? And you're in a physical encounter. What happens? You don't even know what you're doing. You revert to your training. What's your training when you choke somebody all the time? Do you think you're going to have the wherewithal to be like, oh, I can't train him because local law 10181 says that I can't do that? No, you're going to throw that motherfucker in a chokehold. You're gonna, you know what I mean? And it's going to be an unconscious decision on your part. So I agree with you that everybody should be training, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. And I think jiu-jitsu is unbelievable. I mean, all of my friends that are super into it, I used to be able to kick all their asses, and now I can't. So like they could kick my ass, like, you know what I mean? They could control me well, and I think it's really effective, but I think it's scary for a New York City police officer to do it for those reasons that I just said. A lot of people on here saying that the diaphragm law and the chokehold bill are two different things, and they're absolutely not. It's the exact same thing. The chokehold bill.
That's good to point out, John. That's good to point out. A lot of people,
yeah, so they all fall under 10180. They don't all. It was all the same conversation. It was all at the same time. It was just, we called it the chokehold bill in the police department. It was actually the diaphragm bill is what the electeds were calling it. But in reality, all it did was it changed local law 10181, unlawful methods of restraint, excuse me. And what it says is Part A, unlawful methods of restraint. No person shall restrain an individual in a manner that restricts the flow of air or blood by compressing the windpipe or the carotid arteries, right? Choke on each side of the neck, or sitting, kneeling, or standing on the chest or back in a manner that compresses the diaphragm. In the course of effecting or attempting to effect an arrest. Penalties. Any person who violates subdivision of this shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by imprisonment of not more than 1 year, or fine, or up to $2,500, or both. Any penalties resulting from this violation, subdivision A of this section, shall not limit or preclude any cause of action available to any person, entity injured or aggrieved by such violation. So if you read through it deeper, is what it's really saying there is that they're gonna up your charge too. This is your gateway to a felony chokehold charge, a felony whatever they were strangulation charge. That is how they're able to charge cops with felony strangulation. And you laugh because we get these videos all the time, security guards. We get videos all the time of Brazilian jiu-jitsu experts. And what do? On the streets of New York, they restrain a perpetrator by violating the diaphragm law. And the news and our electeds laud them as heroes. But if an NYPD cop does it, they'd be sitting in Rikers with police officer Omar Habib facing 7 years in prison. So I don't understand why New York City specifically is so much different from the rest of the country, but 100% it is not America. New York City goes by its own laws. There's a lot of police executives and there's a lot of people who want to believe differently. But it's not the department that it once was. It's not the city that it once was. And again, I blame the upper echelon of the NYPD because if you remember when this came out, it was then Chief Terrence Monahan was in charge of the department. And there was a lot of executives who were very upset about this bill, as they should have been, saying, how are we going to go out there and continue to do police work? Like, how are we putting resisting perpetrators? How are we affecting arrests? Like, our guys are going to get hung. And what he yelled out was, we can't be afraid. Then he went on, and I didn't hear him publicly say this, but supposedly he said that the DAs will never charge this, that he spoke to them and they'll never charge this. And what I was saying at the time is that this is just a gateway. They'll let it sit and simmer for a while, and then they're going to charge it. And then once they charge it, it's going to open up the floodgates, and then everyone's going to be charged. And that's where we're at now. It actually was charged. It was prosecuted. Omar Habib was found guilty of violating this. And I'm, again, like I said, he's the first, but he's 100% not going to be the last cop. You're going to start to see this get charged a lot. We just got the new head of CCRB. We showed you who she was. You know, good friend of the National Action Network, Al Sharpton's good buddy. And yeah, her thoughts on defunding the police were not, shouldn't use the term because it's not good. It's not a good marketing strategy. She liked, I forget all the different ways she wanted to word it, but ultimately defund, abolish. Disinvest. Yeah, reinvest. And so I think you're going to see the CCRB start to push this more, that the diaphragm law was violated, and then you're going to see our elected start to push this more, and you're going to see the DAs, as a result, charge this more. And when you put this in front, you know, like I make fun of cops all the time. I said, like, we're an uninformed population. We're the dumbest people alive. But, you know, I don't truly necessarily mean that. Like, but now you're going to be sit in front of a judge or a jury of your peers, and they have no idea about your job. Like I always say, police work is the most discussed profession on earth, yet is the least understood. It is the most scrutinized profession on earth, yet it's the least understood. And so, you know, I don't want to get put in the, I don't want to win the Super Bowl and be sitting there and have other people decide my fate that don't understand my job and don't understand the laws. So really scary time for New York City police officers. And Marlon's right. Like, you really, guys really got to think about it. You got to be really tactically smart going forward using physical force. And I hate to say it, but you have to do your best to avoid the head and the neck, because anything that you do around that, they're going to come after you for it. And then I think it's a big problem. It's a huge, huge problem. This should be in the front pages of every paper for the last 5 years now, 6 years now, and it hasn't been. The only people that talk about this issue, and I've been talking about this issue, is right here on the Finest Unfiltered. And it's unfortunate. All the big back the Blue Lives Matter, the FOP, this one, that one, none of them talk about this shit because they don't give a fuck, because it ain't them.
Yeah. I think they don't get, part of the reason why they don't care is because this provides an opening for other things that you know, other things to come in and kind of take the place of training, you know, or being able, what I'm speaking of is of specifically of technology and Wall Street, okay? Because you've made laws that handicap cops from being able to properly arrest people without, you know, violating the law, right? So now that's clearly an opening for Wall Street to come in and offer things like what you're seeing here, which is a taser glove, right? So watch, the glove because of the glove, you're easily able to you know, subdue the subject. Yeah, yeah. So if you've been on Twitter for a while, John Chow kind of promoted this. This is how I even found out about it, because he retweeted this, right? So this is Chow. Let me show you his comment down here. So I don't know if you guys could see it, but this is him.
Nah, it's way too small, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, regardless of that, let me get this off the screen. The point is that I'm making here is that I always talk about that the relationship between the corporate right and the progressive left. And the progressive left causes the chaos, and then the corporate right comes in and offers corporate technology, corporate contracts in order to solve a problem that that a problem that didn't exist years ago. We've been policing for how long now, and now we all need this technology, you know. And this technology wouldn't have been needed if you hadn't passed laws like the diaphragm law. It wouldn't be needed if you hadn't let in people who can't do the job properly, like the 2 foot tall women or the 40-year-old former traffic agents who can barely speak English, right? It you know, or the overweight rookies, overweight 20-year-olds who have no reason to be overweight at that age, right? If you didn't let in people who can't do the job, or you didn't handicap them by putting them in a position where doing their job means they get arrested, then there wouldn't be need for this. But you see, they created this need because now lots of people could be fed off the crumbs. And I said online that this is a dystopian technology that it makes it kind of takes the effort and the effort, the skill, the training, the awareness needed to arrest people, and that is very dystopian. It's like out of a dystopian science fiction. And I think b- because of how they've handicapped us, this is where they're going. And you should pay attention to all these technologies that are coming in, because they're all going to be on that same level of dystopian science fiction.
You know, this is becoming, like, to me, it's like ridiculous. It's like Clockwork Orange over here. Like you're expected to use these tools that supposedly are going to work, and what happens when they don't work, right? Because machinery or any type of technology has its faults, and more that we lean towards these devices, including tasers, I think removes the idea of training. And I think that people have to be trained, and the tools should be their supplemental, that if we need to assist. But to me, I don't think these tools should be the go-to. There's nothing that can replace hands-on. We need to train our cops and constantly train our cops and make sure they're trained proficiently and efficiently. Now, to the gentleman that left the comment earlier, I'm a huge advocate. You know, I love boxing. I boxed a long time, in Westchester. I would fight at champs, at different gyms. I fought, competed doing jiu-jitsu. I competed in Malaysia. I competed, and I don't think you need that far of training. If you're into it, God bless. But really, cops need jiu-jitsu that is tailored for police work. They need some stand-up that's tailored for police work, and they need to also to learn some wrestling to make that connection from stand-up to the ground. Because how do you get someone to the ground? And yes, they need to learn some judo throws also, but they need to combine this together and make some type of program for cops that actually works. But this idea that you're just going to touch someone to your glove, what happens when that glove is not charged? What happens when that glove is not working and you don't have that training to stand behind it? So the spine of police work should be your training, and these tools should just be supplemental. This is absolutely ridiculous. But of course, someone's going to make money off this, right, Marlon? That's really what this comes down to. I'm sure this will be the next stock trading. I'm sure John Shell and all his connections out there are looking to get their hand in the cookie jar and make a buck on this. But the problem also is this idea that if cops do have these tools, people believe, well, that it's a magic wand and it always works. The magic wand was the taser, and guess what? That magic wand is only effective about 49% of the time. It's a flip of the coin. How effective will this glove be? How effective will this glove be when someone is sweating profusely and they have lotion on them, or suntan lotion because they were just at the beach? How effective will this glove be when it's January and they're wearing multiple layers of clothing? How effective will this be on someone that's going through excited delirium? So I want to know. I say no glove, no love. So stupid.
No, yeah, but I think Mullen's right when he talks about it, though. It's like what this is trying to compensate for is competent police officers, right? Because the people that you're seeing doing this are obviously competent physically and competent in combat, right? But what happens when you give it to a 40-year-old out of shape traffic agent who just became a police officer yesterday and has no idea about physical confrontation, isn't properly trained? That glove could easily be used against them. What happens when you give it to a 4'10" woman that's a 90 pounds, that's never been in a physical fight in her life, and she's up against a 6'3", 280-pound mentally ill individual? What's that glove going to do for them? Nothing. And so, this is the response to a weakened, diminished police department. That's all this is. Like, it's like, oh yeah, let's get these tools that, it's going to help the cops do these things. And here's the other problem with it. The other problem is that when you look at that, right? What is that? It's the equivalent of a taser deployment, right? So what happens during a taser deployment, right? You are now just committed a level of force. You get a notification immediately to the CCRB, immediately to the Internal Affairs Bureau, immediately to the duty captain. Duty captain has to come out, do a use of force investigation on you, and that stays with you for the rest of eternity, right? That you used force. You used a higher level of force. And so doing that, you're going to, having cops deploy this, you're basically going to just continue to dirty up cops that, they're not really doing anything wrong. They're utilizing the tools you give them. They're attempting to effect arrest. They're improperly, poorly trained. They're unqualified to do the job. You send them out there, they deploy this, or even if they are qualified and properly trained, you send them out there and they deploy this, and now they're a use of force recidivist. They use force. They did this too quickly. And this is just more political fodder, these tools, to be used. Oh, he didn't have to glove him. He didn't have to glove him there. He didn't have to do it there. And look, and again, I laugh at the 30 for 30 movement. They want 30% of women by 2030, and they give all of these scenarios, because they affect, or because studies suggest, according to the 30 for 30 movement, that women cops affect less pickup arrests of minority members. They have less use of force complaints. They have less lawsuits against them, and they're more trusted by the community, according to 30 for 30. If you go to their website, who Dr. Tanya Meisenholder pushed during her time in the NYPD and is now still pushing today, believe works directly with the organization. But here's a woman cop in Toronto. Let's give her the glove. Let's see. Do you think that the glove, we give her this glove, that could bring this person down and act like a taser? Now, she has a taser on her. She has a firearm on her. She has a nightstick on her. She has an asp on her. She has pepper spray on her. Do we think that the glove would be effective here? I'd love to know your opinion. So watch. This is a Toronto police officer. There's a male throwing a stone through her window in the cop car. He already smashed out the back window. Now he's smashing out the front window. She is running away from him. She has her taser. She runs back again. He's continuing to take the rock and smash the front windshield. She again tries to run near him and runs away from him. Taser in hand, taser in hand. She still gets next to him. She runs away again. He throws the rock at her. She runs away again. She runs away again. So I could just look at this video and I could tell you, just by watching this video, that she would not be able to effectively deploy the glove. She wasn't effectively able to deploy her taser. She was very afraid to get in close to him because he was physically imposing to her. He is now still walking around her police vehicle, and which she left, and she is now in flight mode, running. And he's continuing to throw rocks at her, and she's continuing to back up further down the block. So the glove there would not overcome the ills of diversity, equity, inclusion, the ills of hiring unqualified people that cannot competently deploy physical, or not, I don't want to say deploy, but be involved in physical confrontations, people that cannot effectively arrest people. So that glove would just be another waste of money. But hey, who knows? Maybe some retired chief could get a consulting contract out of it and bridge that gap and make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Think how many incidents we see where cops are in a melee, and then, there's another cop who's coming in and they're not really doing anything, but they're trying to squeeze into the pylon, and it's like, you're not helping the situation, guy. What are let them try and get the guy under control. We don't need an extra hand here. Everything is under control. And I mentioned this example before because I ever since it happened to me as a rookie, I always think about it, right? And that example is I was on Chauncey Street in the 8-1. I'm walking I'm walking eastbound and westbound. Two cops are following a perp inside of 120 Chauncey Street. Now, if you work in 8-1 in Bed-Stuy, you know that building. I don't know how it is now, but back in the 2000s, it was a problem. Full of perps. It's I think it's low income. I forgot whether the city owned it or not, but it doesn't matter. It's buildings full of perps, and once you hear a robbery come over on like what's that street? Fulton Street around the train station. Chauncey Street is one of those areas where 120 Chauncey Street is one of those areas you head to because you automatically think, hey, this perp might be running to that location. So anyway, I follow them inside. We get into a chase with the perp. I end up being the guy. I left the sergeant and the cop, right? So I chased the guy into the other building and I cornered him against the door as he tried to exit from the other side. And so I had my firearm on my side and I'm holstering it and I'm pressing him up against the door. And all of a sudden, the other cop comes around the corner. I had the guy under control. All we had to do was put the guy's hands in cuffs and that's it. The cop comes around the corner, grabs him from me and pulls him down onto the ground. And then next thing you know, we're wrestling again with the perp on the ground. And this is an example of why sometimes cops make it worse, the situation worse, and that lack of tactical awareness and thinking. They get tunnel vision or they get lost in the moment, but it made it worse. So think of it: you have a pylon, and a cop now has these taser gloves, and that cop is gonna try and get into the pylon with everybody around him, and they may end up shocking one of the cops involved instead of the actual This is with the poor training we get as cops in the NYPD and a poor tactical awareness in a lot of cops. Can you just imagine the problems that would come out of this? Okay, to me, it's just a nightmare. And like Eric said, this is no substitute for proper training and proper tactics and certainly physical conditioning. Okay.
I think the funny part also, I mean, and John kind of alluded to it, right? The girl in Toronto, but let's say you do. The reality is, let's say you have to utilize these gloves. So we're not going to utilize these gloves just to touch someone who's compliant. We're talking about someone who's already become violent. So how do you get your hands on that person, right? You're asking someone to get in close proximity and actually get their hands on. So if they have to get their hands on for a glove, why are we not training them on distance management and training them on how to box? Because now, how are they going to get their hands on them? Like, ooh, can you move out of the way so I can get my hands on you? You actually have to get your hands, which means you have to be able to be trained to get in close proximity and not get your ass kicked before you actually get those hands on. We're going to have cops running around trying to get hands. I mean, it's going to look funny, trying to get their hands on someone's shoulder, trying to just touch them. It's the most ridiculous thing. This is absolutely, this glove is only good if you actually have training and you actually manage distance and actually get your hands on someone. And we watch, unfortunately, and watch confrontations with cops. And most cops don't understand distance management because they're not training and they're not too good at getting in a close zone. I see cops looking away when they're in a face-to-face confrontation because they're not trained, right? You have to train that eye to be able to see, someone's hands swatting at you. Again, unless you have training behind that, this glove is useless. It's a joke, but I'm sure people want to make money off it. And then, of course, the public doesn't understand. They're going to expect the cops to use this glove. Look, Rob Lukash says it here, brother Rob. The glove workers, they're great. They tried to sell it to ESU in 2021. The problem is you still have to go hands-on after use. That's a great point also, before even initiating contact. But let's say you are successful. You get the glove on them and they get incapacitated for a few seconds. But then you have to get to them and actually put your hands on and get them in cuffs. And John, Marlon, you've seen it. I've seen it. We've seen people get tased before and eat it. What do you do then? It's the same thing with the glove, right? I seen people before on PCP, man. I'm sure they were hurting the next day, but the day they're fighting, whew, good luck. I remember one time I was working with Valachi. Valachi, shout out to you, brother, if you're watching this, man. We were rookies together in the 1-2-0, and we had this perp, man, and we were fighting perp was on PCP, and I think we were both tired from punching the perp. You know, so I'm sure the perp was hurt the next day, but we were tired from fighting with the perp. You know, at some point you get tired yourself. How many strikes can you throw? This is funny. It's a big joke. We're gonna see cops running around trying to get their gloves on someone. This is silly. This is silly. The taser's not effective. Neither is a stupid glove. Take the glove, throw it in the trash. And what's gonna be next? Cops are gonna have mittens, so you don't have to grab your firearm and you have to use the electric mitten. That's gonna be next. Cops with mittens.
Well, we could go. I don't think, and I think Pat Donahue brings it up here, but I don't think it was ever properly deployed or trained. The use of the breath mint, like hey, guy, calm down, take a NYPD breath mint. It'll relax you. Everyone's like commenting about my cigar. Like, this is like my breath mint. It's like, I just sit there, I chew it. It gives me like a relaxing feeling, like I'm smoking a cigar without inhaling any of that tobacco. So the breath mint, I mean, it could work, just real funny. What was I going to say? Next week, we definitely got to get into it. We'll probably have one of the members of city council on, or it's potentially one of the next members of city council on to discuss the bill that just came out where they want the NYPD to now account for every shooting, not hide them in reckless endangerment and this stat and that stat and that stat. They want one stat. How many shootings? How many times was a trigger pulled in New York City? Now, it doesn't mean how they're going to be classified. Still going to get classified as all those different things. But every time a trigger gets pulled, it's going to be one number that's going to be publicly available. A lot of stuff happened over last night and including until today, where the police department seems very upset about having to do that. And that makes me think a lot of bad things. So I think definitely tune in on Monday. That's going to be a good show to talk about that. Do you guys got anything else on Officer Habib before we move on? Because we're getting close.
I'm just curious, John. Could you be charged with excessive breath mints if you give someone too many breath mints? Like, can you overdose on breath mints? Like, how many breath mints do you give them? Just one.
Well,
I mean,
do they have hypoallergenic breath mints too?
I hope you don't OD on those breath mints.
And
he smells good, but he overdosed.
Very important that they were done in an environmentally friendly facility too, as well. So all important, and that they weren't on stolen land either. Because if they were made on stolen land that was once owned by the Lenape Indian, that would also be a problem.
They should put like the precinct numbers, right? You put the precinct number and your badge number on the breath mint, so we know who gave it.
Exactly.
well, you'll just be charged with attempted murder, Eric. Yeah.
By the way, I hate those business cards. Anybody in the New York City Police Department and leadership, and I'm not talking about captain or deputy inspector. I'm talking about like you're up there in leadership and you allow your cops to get abused with these business cards. Shame on you, bro. Shame on you. I watch video after video this weekend of lieutenants, sergeants, detectives, and cops getting absolutely abused. And they're all like, yeah, here you go. Yeah, here you go. They're literally getting abused. I'm like, this is a complete emasculation of the New York City Police Department. This has opened up the gateway for so many bad things. It has removed omnipresence across the city. It's absolutely disgusting. And you're sitting up there in the halls of One Police Plaza, sipping your cognac, like drinking your cigars, thinking that the girls think that you're good looking. You think you all of a sudden got better looking as you got older and uglier and fat. Like, you talk about detached from reality. I watch those videos and it infuriates me, dude. It infuriates me. I'm like, I can't believe this. I can't believe what this job has become.
I think you should get to choose what flavor you want for the breath mints. Like, yeah.
It's people that don't like mint.
I would want to get
Lieutenant
one.
Tim, you offered him a mint. Did you see if he wanted any other flavor, Lieutenant Tim?
You know what I would do? I want a breath mint that at first it tastes like mint, but then it starts to taste like shit. I want to give that to somebody. Here you go. They're like, whoa. And then they start eating shit. There you go. That's what I give them. I'm gonna give them shit mints.
So before we start to wrap up, this was the funniest shit I see, and I saw this morning.
Oh, this guy.
Streets blogs, baby. Sammy Sussman. I'm pretty sure Sammy's one of Milwaukee's finest. I think he was a reporter in Milwaukee, if you look him up. I haven't looked him up in a while, but I'm pretty sure Sammy, correct me, was it Ohio or Milwaukee that you came from?
Looks like a true New Yorker to me.
Anyway, so they're trying to say that the NYPD doesn't write enough parking tickets, even though the NYPD, and that includes traffic agents, by the way, not just officers, it includes traffic agents. They're trying to say that the NYPD doesn't write enough parking tickets, which is so false. It's not even funny. I think the number is like they write like 18,000 a week, or maybe even more. So it's a ridiculous number. So Sammy makes this little video to show how easy it is. Now, when you watch Sammy, I want you to picture him with fairy wings and a wand, because Sammy thinks that you could just walk over to a car and put a parking ticket on it, and it only takes 3 seconds. Time him through this video. It is the funniest thing. I woke
like
up
someone
this
I know,
morning laughing. Yeah.
John, does he look like Jack Stern? He looks like Jack Stern's cousin.
He looks, dude, like, except he has some color in his face. He looks like he's not afraid of the sunlight. I'm afraid of the sun. I gotta lather up before I walk to the gym. It's like, all right, dude, you'll be all right if the sun
Does he
touches your
date?
body.
Does he date someone with a ponytail too?
I don't know, but like Jack, he might throat his coat. Well, he might coat his throat with protein, likes to keep him safe from COVID, like Jack does.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, no more free advertising for those guys. All right.
So you don't think that's effective? Protein throat coats?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right.
It can protect you from COVID, bro. Splooge. It's good.
Yep.
So anyway, just picture the fairy wings and the thing. Here we go. Let's see. Let's watch this truly investigative video.
No sound.
Yeah, there's no sound coming from it, Joe. Oh wait.
Yep. We gotta hear Sammy.
What are you saying? There's no sound coming from it?
Nothing. No.
Really?
No. Yeah, nothing. You hear it?
Oh, I heard the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Okay. Maybe I clicked it. All right. Let me start over, people. Sorry about that. Let me see. Tell me if it goes.
Last week, the 34,000 officers of the NYPD wrote just 9 tickets for blocking the bus lane. Across the city's 78 precincts, they caught just 9 drivers blocking a bus. 2 days ago, Streets Blood came out here to show that we could beat the NYPD in how fast we write tickets, but we did it at the wrong time. So we're here, it's 9:18 a.m., and let's start again. Let's see how long it takes us to beat the NYPD. And that's 10. Because of cars in the bus lane, buses like this get blocked.
So 3 seconds. 3 seconds each. Sammy gave the car. He was literally doing that. Does it, like, just reality? We've all written parking summonses or summons. It takes a lot longer than 3 seconds. Like, I mean, you don't know what you're going to interact with. You don't know if you're going to interact with the individual. I mean, just like, let's just say it's a perfect world and you're not in New York City and there's not 8,000 people around you bothering you and people yelling at you and people asking you questions. Let's pretend you're like Sammy and you're basically invisible to the world. Like, there's like, no, is there any men here? Nope, not over here. And so, you know, people just look right past you. And the women just look right past you as they walk. It's like, where are all the men? Not there. But like, let's pretend he's in this like safe, controlled environment. Like, how long do you think it takes to just write a parking summons and then put all the notes in your memo book and like actually complete one parking summons?
How many ball gags do you think Sammy has had? Oh, God.
Yeah, clearly there's an agenda going on here. Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like, but seriously, serious question. Like, how long do you think it takes to write a parking summons?
Mm-hmm. I haven't written parking tickets in a long time, and I think they're computerized now. I don't even know. But even if they were, it doesn't take 2 seconds. He doesn't account for the time that you need to first assess what's going on with that car, make sure the car is not stolen before you actually write a ticket. You don't just walk up to, first of all, cops, maybe traffic agents do, but cops don't just walk up to a car and just write a ticket. You have to make sure that it's actually the plates are accurate, the plates match that car, make sure the car's not stolen, make sure it's not abandoned before you actually write that ticket. So there's a lot more that goes into it. This is a joke. I mean, this is fun. This whole skit doesn't measure anything.
No, because I mean, you got to look, even if it's computerized, you still got to put in the location. You still got to put in what you observed. You still got to find the violation that you're going to write, right? You still got to do all that. So you got to issue the ticket. That's at least 5-10 minutes, even if it's computerized. If it's not and it's handwritten, it could be 10-15 minutes, depending on your skills, what you're doing, how comfortable you feel being buried in that summons. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be too comfortable in that. I'm going to be like, down, look, you know, I haven't wrote a summons in a while. If you told me, John, write this rider truck right here, it would probably take me like 15-20 minutes, dude, right now, if I don't write a parking summons.
I have no idea to write a
I'd
summons.
be like, oh, what's the code again for this? Oh, yeah, I got to find the code. And then when I'm done with it, I got to put all the stuff in my memo book, too. I got to put everything in there. Oh, and then, by the way, when I'm done with that, when I go back, you know, I got to put all that stuff on my body camera, too, and tag it. This was the parking summons I wrote. So Sammy Sussman could see what I did with my job. Like, it's ridiculous, dude. 3 seconds. Ding, 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 ding. I mean, like, Streets blog is totally anti-NYPD at this point. I do not take them seriously. I mean, someone was texting me this morning. They said they are unserious people. And I'm just like, yeah, they're unserious people, but so is the overwhelming majority of city council. So is the overwhelming majority of people running vital city agencies in the city currently. So is the overwhelming majority of the people that were appointed by Zohran Mamdani. Unserious people, just like Sammy.
They should have the unions do this. I mean, I know the union members, they probably haven't wrote a summons in about 30 years, but they should have Scott Monroe go out and write a summons and see how long it takes. But, you know, it just, that would be funny. That's how the unions should combat this. I mean, first of all, it's the silliest thing. This idea that cops just walk up and give tickets doesn't leave the context, doesn't show what the police actually do. As I said before, right? A good cop, you make sure the plates match the VIN, you make sure the car's not stolen, you check out the car, why is it there? Not just that it's just a parked car legally. You know, if that's the case, then it's just strictly for revenue. And that's not what cops do. Maybe traffic agents do. I can't speak for traffic agents. I know that I've been ticketed by traffic agents with a plaque in the car while at my precinct. I'm sure it's probably happened to you, John, or Marlon. It's all happened to us, right? Because that's more revenue based. But it's completely insulting to policing that this idea that's completely revenue based. It's absolutely, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Quick story time, right? When I was a rookie again, I was on midnights, right? Midnight patrol. I was living not too far from the precinct itself in the adjoining command. I get home early in the morning. There's no parking on the street. My only option is to park by a hydrant. No, well, park in a school zone. I wasn't blocking the hydrant, but it was in a school zone, right? I had a plaque in the window. Fell asleep in the car. I wake up like 2-3 hours later, and there's a parking ticket on my window. I was like,
you never saw you in the car.
Yeah. I was sleeping in the car, and I had no other choice. I couldn't find parking. I was like, screw this, man. I'm tired. I needed to take a quick nap. So I woke up with a ticket in the window. So, but yeah, just going back to this topic, yeah, man, it's an agenda, you know. They don't want cars in the city. They want to. They want you all taking a bike, riding a scooter, you know, taking the shitty subway. They don't want you having your own, having freedom of mobility, which is what a car gives you.
One thing's right. I don't know if they really hate the police, but they sure as hell are using the police, using the NYPD to meet their agenda, right? And their agenda is to get rid of cars, right? Which is why they targeted the cop, who's the number 2 speeder when it comes to red light speed tickets, and also when it comes to doing this little skit with the bus lanes, because they just want to get rid of cars. But I don't know if they actually hate the NYPD, but they sure as hell are using the NYPD as their tool for their agenda, because it's great. As soon as you have the NYPD or the policing profession involved, people get emotionally driven. Like, yeah, look what and that's how they get the message. So they're pretty smart when it comes to that. It's a stupid skit, but it gets the message.
Wait, and I was totally wrong, by the way. I said like 18,000 a week. I just looked at what I was reading. So retired Inspector John Hall, he wrote this. In the latest data set, New York City traffic agents write on average 566 tickets a week for bus lanes, right? Hear me out. So uniforms, not a lot just for bus lanes, but they write a lot of tickets every week, traffic agents. So 566 just for bus lanes. Ready? Fixed cameras write 12,616 a week, as well as mobile bus lane cameras do 2,123 a week. So there's like right there, there's like 16,000 tickets a week just for bus lanes. No other parking violation in New York City. So, I mean, and they're saying that's not enough. Like, what? They don't want cars. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think who gets rich off of those contracts for the cameras attached to the buses, the sanitation trucks, and they want cameras attached to parking meters and street signs next too, by the way. So
meanwhile, the funny part is this kid comes from Milwaukee or Ohio, wherever he said where you need a car. It's ironic, but now he's a true New Yorker because he lives by way of New York.
Yeah, but I bet he's a nepo baby too with another with a trust fund.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they all are, dude. You know, who comes to the most expensive city in the world to rent an apartment and live in a box for $5,000 a month? There is no rational, sane, working class individual that would do that. Your parents would be like, yeah, Mom, I'm going to live in a 266 square foot apartment. And, I'm going to live, not have all this stuff in my room. And it's only $5,000 a month. Plus I need another $10,000 for expenses. It's like, and maybe I could meet a girl too. Now that I'm retired from the radio industry, Mom.
My bathroom is in the kitchen. Like the shitter is next to the stove.
What rational, sane person does that, dude? Like, you only do that when you have money, bro. Like, you're not doing that. Like, I'm going to spend $5,000 a month on a single studio apartment in New York City. Like, you're not doing that unless you're a nepo baby. I mean, the working class kids that do that, they don't do that for long because they're like, wait, you pay what for your mortgage? And you have this house and a yard and a driveway and you could own a car and you could travel and go to the beach and you don't need public transportation. You don't need to sit in piss-stained, shit-stained MTA bus seats and deal with crackheads down in the subway. Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe I'll live in the suburbs.
And meet a girl named Tom. I met this nice girl. I met this nice girl. Her name is Tom.
Look, I'm all for like they should just bring the draft back, dude. Just draft all the men. Just draft all the boys. Just bring them in. Make it like Israel, bro. Like, get rid of these. Like, it'll shape these kids up into reality right away. I don't care who your son is. I don't care who your daddy is. You're going. Everybody's going.
Yeah, I don't know about it, John. You think
no, bring it all. Toughen them up. Bring them all. I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not saying let's go to war. But I'm saying just there's got to be something, man. There's got to make gym class harder. I don't know. Do something. Something has to happen here. Like, puts testosterone back in men. Make men.
I know what you're saying. We definitely need more masculine men. But the problem is if everyone goes to the military, they have to water it down because not everyone is athletic. Not everyone's qualified or wants to be there. So I do like.
Look at Juju. I mean, like, look, you could even bring disabled people in. Like, they could do Juju's job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's jobs for everybody, dude. Like, you could bring everybody in. You know what I mean? Not everybody's qualified to be it, but I'm just saying, like, there's a seat for every ass. I mean,
That's true. There is a seat. But I like having a military where people join because they want to be there. We get the best of the best, but maybe there is something they could do in high school. But look at a kid like that. You think that kid ever got into a physical competition to his life? You think the kid ever
bring back dodgeball? Bring back dodgeball. Everybody has to play.
Oh my God! How about remember that suicide? Remember
asses up, suicide.
Yeah, asses up. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, even with mandatory military service, you think nepo babies are going? No way. Sorry, John.
But that's what I'm saying. Make them go. They're the ones that need to go.
Who's that? That's him. That's a kid from Street Fly.
No. This is Netanyahu's son. He's chilling in Miami right now.
Oh, okay.
While other Well, you know, other Israelis, the middle class over there, they're the sons and daughters being forced in war. So
Where's his boyfriend? Was he sitting in the seat, or was he the one taking the picture? Did anyone see Adams hanging out around there? Eric Adams anywhere in the bathrooms over there? Stores?
Adams looking for data centers right now.
Cocaine and man ass.
He's busy trying to convince people in Wisconsin to have a giant data center in their backyard.
Hey, Juju, do you like girls? Is he still here?
Yeah, Juju's there. Juju's upset. All right. Let's get to this the super chats. We're running out of time. Appreciate everybody joining us this morning. We were a little light this morning, about 400. That's okay. 400, 4, it doesn't matter. We're going to be here doing the damn thing. So appreciate everybody tuning in, whoever does live or after. For those of you that listen after, honestly, like, because we do interact a lot with the chat. If you have any questions or you have something that you want us to address, just email us. You know, go over to www.thefinestunfiltered.com. There's plenty of message buttons around there to message us. Go over any of our social medias. And you know, you just message us. Just say, hey, look, you bring this up. We keep everybody anonymous. We never call anybody out. We've been doing this for 4 years. Nobody got in trouble for ever saying anything to us because we don't even talk about shit like that. People are like, oh, you guys got some sources. I'm like, not really. Cops call me to figure out what the hell's going on. You know, like it's like it's the funny shit. Like, what'd you hear? I'm like, I don't know. What did you hear? So, all right, let's get to the super chats.
We need some Finest Unfiltered breath mints, though. I want to get our own breath mints. That's
what about?
My goal.
I say we get pinky rings first, bro. Finest Unfiltered pinky rings, so you could be part of the family. I'm not sending none of my detectives, Mom. None of that. Forget about it. Mamdani not doing nothing. Oh yeah, you want to dip into our pension? Oh yeah, no problem, Mr. Mayor. Okay, yeah, okay. I don't want to say nothing. You know what it is? I just don't want to say nothing to him because he might give me something good.
Yeah. Oh, you want to fire my detectives? Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Nah, no big deal. You want to medically rape all the pregnant girls with this thing that just came out about Fauci? Yeah, no big deal. Don't worry about it, Mo. You know, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, let's do it. All right, let's go. Anthony says, make more masculinity. Stop reading in schools. I have 2 dads. Dude, I bought this woke ass book. I took my kids to like this library the other day. It's the funniest book I ever seen in my life. It's like a DEI book. I was like, oh, I gotta buy this. It was like $1. I gotta bring it on here. We should do like a book review and read through it one day. It was hysterical. It was the most anti-white thing I've ever read in my life. And the funniest shit was the book comes from like an all-white Christian school in North Florida. I'm like, are these people fucking kidding me? Like, are you this stupid? I wanted to like call the lady that like name was on it. Like, you gave this to the kids? Like, sick. Anthony's also said, he says, keep keeping us informed. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you always being here. Who do we got here?
Thank you, brother.
James Kennedy. What's up, brother? We appreciate it. Very generous. Gives $50 to the channel. He says, coffee and donuts. What a great combo. I love the podcast. It feels like home. I retired in 2007, moved to North Carolina, and worked as a deputy sheriff for another 16 years. I loved it. But there's definitely life after retirement. Well, we appreciate your service, both in New York City and in North Carolina. Well-deserved retirement. It's a long career in law enforcement, so we appreciate you being here. Always welcome. And, you know, we do want to get back to interviewing retired guys and politicians. We're going to start to ramp that up again. I know I keep saying it. There's just so much stuff coming down the pipeline. But if you ever want to come on and talk about your journey in law enforcement and what you see, more than welcome. So hit us up. You know. Yeah,
shout out to James Kennedy, brother. Thank you so much for the coffee and donuts. And I got a lot of friends that relocated to North Carolina, so definitely you got to set up some type of coalition out there. A lot of cops out in North Carolina. So thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
There's some guy in the chat. I don't know who it is, and he wants us to start a militia. And yeah, we're not. He's like, we could take over back City Hall. Like, dude, chill out.
What's his handle?
I don't even know. I just saw a couple. I don't know. I'm having a hard time reading, dude. Honestly, I could barely see what the hell is like.
FBI guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, let's lock all those three assholes up. There's some dude that looks like Urkel with like 15-inch thick glasses that works in Homeland right now. He's like, I know a podcast where they need to go to jail. They're white supremacists.
Yeah.
You know?
You ever seen that Babylon V skit where all the informants are like working for the FBI and they're trying to like start an uprising?
No.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
They're all informants.
Yeah. NYPD 8311. What's up, brother? Welcome back. He says, John, love the cigar. Remind me of Detective Billy Clark, NSU 9. Another great cop who taught us well, always with a cigar in his mouth. He's rolling in his grave today. Great show. Have a great weekend. Thanks, brother. Yeah, you know what it is? I'm just stressed out, dude. So like I never smoked much, but I would smoke a cigar here and there, and I don't smoke anymore, and I can't. My lungs are too fucked up. So just doing this relaxes me. Nin says it's because I have an oral fixation.
You might.
You might be right, Nin. You're the one that doesn't want to meet me for coffee, bro. So we don't know.
I love cigars, dude. I smoke a couple a week. There's nothing on record that shows anything bad for cigars, and actually it boosts testosterone a little bit. So if you want to boost your testosterone, smoke a cigar. Become a man again. Smoke one.
Become a man again. You can act like a man.
Be a man.
That's my favorite scene in any movie. Godfather, I don't know what to do, Godfather. And he smacks him. He's like, you can act like a man.
Right out.
Oh, so funny.
No one will make a good one about that. He loves Godfather.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Nolan's mad at me again.
It's all right. You guys have a love-hate relationship.
It's told you so back when says, when I rub one out, my veins pop out.
All right, you should be arrested.
But seriously,
that's a chokehold.
You're in a physical confrontation. Like you more than likely your veins are gonna bulge, right? Like it doesn't prove anything. It's like my adrenaline's flowing. I'm fighting with a resisting perpetrator. His vein, there was sweat glistening from his muscles and his forehead.
I told you so back
and the
when.
vein was bulging.
If he's choking his own dick, he should be arrested. Charged.
It's
guilty.
sick, dude. It's sick. Like it's a sick world, bro. I was like, what am I reading? His muscles, they were like overthrowing. It was like, you know what it reminded me of? The CNN guy when he was on with Rogan. And Rogan absolutely just destroyed every logical argument he had about COVID. And then afterwards, he's like, he was sitting across from me with his muscles and I was intimidated. I couldn't think properly. It's like, come on, dude. Joe Rogan's like 5'4". You weren't scared. Stop. Even I'm taller than him.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those. That sounds like one of those dime store romance novels, John. You know.
You want me to do a romance? I could do a romance.
His biceps were throbbing.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it as Sammy Sussman, though. And he walked by that vehicle and didn't even ticket it. With all of with those tight khaki pants. In the July summer heat. And then he flies off.
He had a zipper fly.
Sammy, do you take the elevator to get up to Streets Blog, or do you just float up as he walks by the firehouses? Look at
Sammy's not gay. His boyfriend is.
I heard he's on a plane right now to go meet somebody in Miami.
Fort Lauderdale.
It's told to you back when says, don't underestimate the stupidity of New York City voters. And I'm pretty sure he's saying that we're all wrong. Mamdani's going to win a landslide. And Mullins, right? Well,
I'm going to Tish. I just won the $100.
Fair point. I mean, look, the kid did get 1 million votes. I was pretty shocked by that. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be much closer than it was. I was shocked by that, even though there's still questions about that election.
Hopefully he's a better mayor than he's a rapper.
It's told to you so back when, says John McCarry would beat Tish. I'm 100% would vote against myself on that Kalshi bet. 100% vote against myself. You know, blackballed from the media darling child. I'm gonna give them the probability of winning that one.
Sorry, John, I'm putting my 100 on Tish.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I would recommend you too. I would recommend.
Me and Tish have a lot of common. We can't turn our heads right now.
So Detective Nolan, $10. He says, restore the scrolling chat so we can see all the comments, not just YouTube. Hear you, brother. We're just unable to do it with the setup right now. We're trying to work a way where we could figure that out. I do agree with you. I like that you guys all would be on the chat, but like if you see right now, it blocks a lot of stuff. It actually blocks out our QR code. So we're gonna try to figure out a way to do that. But like you said, you could see it in YouTube. We recommend everybody going to YouTube. YouTube is our most profitable platform, so we'd appreciate it if all of you guys did watch and listen to us on YouTube. So, I mean, we do a lot of this shit for free. You can help us pay the bills at least, you know. We're basically
we got to keep the lights on here.
I mean, we got to keep the ship afloat here. We're taking on water every month yet. It's like it's ridiculous, you know. So with that being said, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, we'd appreciate it. If you guys are watching or listening on any other media platforms, we'd appreciate it if you could do the same there. And leave us a review on the audio platforms, help move us up in the algorithm so we could get these bigger sponsors, and then we could pay people to fix a lot of the stuff that us three moron cops can't do, right? So, you know.
Yeah, listen, we need a sponsor. I need new curtains. Come on.
Yeah. But I totally agree with you, Nolan. I haven't been disregarding your comments. I just don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, we see your comments, Nolan, but it's just that if you want to bring up the comments, you can actually do that on your own screen. You know, we're seeing your comments there. We see it all. You know, we just don't have time to get through all of them. You know, we definitely make attempts to highlight the great comments in the chat, but you know, sometimes we miss a few. You know, and we also, the other thing about putting up the comments there is that it obscures the QR code. And, you know, again, like John said, we got to keep the lights on. StreamYard does cost a lot of money, you know, to be able to stream to all these platforms. So Kalshi is one of the ways we you know, keep those lights on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of other expenses other than just, you know, like all the apps to create the thumbnails. There's a lot of expenses that come around this, the equipment that we use, like anything you could think of, and then plotting out to all the audio platforms. So there's a lot of different expenses here. So yeah, we appreciate it. Cobbs 3506. He says, John, I'm working on pulling up James Lackard indictment from Pacer. If I get it, how do I get it to you? Have a great weekend, man. God help the NYPD. Absolutely. So look, like I said, you could always go to www.thefinestunfiltered.com. That'll go into our email. I would tell you, like, you know, look, I'm on Instagram. I do see some of my messages. I don't see all of them. There's a lot that come in daily. There's a lot that come in hourly. X, my DMs are open as well. You could do it there. And like I said, Marlon, Eric, same thing. They have their own handles too. Plus we have Finest Unfiltered stuff that you could send to. Am I going to tell you that we're the best at getting back to absolutely everything? No, we're not. Like, I'll be lying. Like, but we try. You know what I mean? Like, we try to get everything that we could. You know, if you title it like James Lackard indictment, like, so we could see it, because, you know, it just is what it is. Just the way of social media. There's a lot of bots. There's a lot of scammers. There's a lot of haters. And then there's like real stuff mixed in there. And it's kind of hard to see sometimes, dude. And then the other thing is they hide them too. Like some of them are hidden in these other messages, and then you find them. It's like, it's pretty wild the way they do it. It's not all just in one inbox on social media. But I would say the best way is to email us, dude, because we do check that at least once a week and we get that stuff. And I would appreciate it because we still haven't seen that new indictment. And I'm real curious what that thing says on it.
Yeah, you could always tag us on social media also and tell us, check our inbox or something like that. To get our attention. So
true.
No, I think it's pretty funny. I don't even know who put it here anymore. The comments are moving so quick, but someone said, "Oh yeah, Sal Stern." I'm not sure. Sal Stern says, "Embed the QR code on John Stolen Times Square sign."
Not stolen. Not stolen.
That's pretty funny.
Well, actually, if you take it from the trash, it's technically petty larceny, right? Damn, you got me, Cass.
You take it from the trash, dude. That's not trash. That's a gift.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. City property.
What? Something's in the trash?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just gave one PP an idea, you know.
Nah, it's in the
Like,
trash.
oh, we got him now.
All right. It
We
is
got
what
that
it is.
McCarry guy now.
Like I said, I've been
Call
to the
St.
holding
John
cells,
Sheriff
and
Office
I'm not
again.
scared to go back. You know.
I'm gonna say I think if it's trash, it's a gift.
Yeah.
If you want to go with that story.
I actually,
Oh, yeah.
I made this. So just so you guys know, I made this. All right.
Group 1 is on the phone with St. John's already.
Well, those pussies will definitely send other cops. So 100% they ain't showing up. I would laugh my ass off, bro. That would be the ass reaming. They thought they got abused as rookies. Forget about it. That would be an 8-hour excursion of getting abused for 8 hours. You know,
Pat
that would be
Donahue, baby.
Patty Donahue back. You know, here he goes. He says, "Kudo." I thought we banned him. What happened? No.
He's out of the doghouse, man. He's good to go.
Yeah. Says, "Kudos to John and Eric for taking care of business. Please make TCB challenge coins." What's the TCB challenge coin? Why am I drawing a blank? It's 3 hours.
Taking
My brain
care of
fell
business.
down. Oh, taking care of business challenge coins.
It's all right.
All right.
After 3 hours, sometimes you forget it.
Welcome back, Pat. We're still gonna we want another episode with you and Marlon.
I think Pat's still mad at Marlon. How could you be mad at Marlon? Come on, man.
Stay trained up, says John. Off topic. There's a content creator named Sergeant Curtis, retired Las Vegas PD. He has a ton of experience and great stories. Have him on one day. Yeah, I mean, hook us up with him, dude. You know, like I said, we do have a lot of people that want to come on, and we want to get everybody on. We all working out, putting more content out. But like I said, like we got to pay the bills, and like we're not, you know what I mean. This is a feudal enterprise at this point. So like we're doing a lot of other things to pay the bills off the side. You know what I mean? That occupies our time on top of being fathers and husbands and sons and brothers, and so like there's a lot of stuff there. So I mean that's the only reason you guys don't get content all day long is like this is not, it's a full-time job, but it doesn't pay like one. It pays like a hobby, which is nothing. We give money.
We need some variable supplement over here.
Yeah. Which I don't have. Marlon doesn't have. Marlon doesn't have his fucking pension.
There's no Finest Unfiltered pension.
Yeah. I mean, you would think Juju would donate money at least.
Juju donate what, $2 once? $1.99?
That's all right. I donated $1 to Adam's campaign. I mean, sometimes you gotta do it.
Listen, 3 hours, 11 minutes into it. Finest Unfiltered, your Friday roundtable. Like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, like, share, and subscribe. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live. Stick with us. You want content that's hyper-focused on New York City, the NYPD, the entire nation. It's right here. Finest Unfiltered, baby. Any more coffee and donuts?
No, I think that's it, right, peoples? I think that's it.
No, sorry. No, we broke Nolan's bank, man. He went light today. Sorry, Nolan, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, there's still thanks for last show. That was very generous. So, yeah, we appreciate it.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
It's least
Good man.
At least you could do for all the
Absolutely.
harassment you do towards me.
Every time you know what we should do, Nolan. Every time you mention Stephen Lee, you got to put $20 to the kitty. You got to put $20 to coffee and donuts.
They'd be broke by the end of the show, bro.
If you mention Stephen Lee or Tommy Hot Dog Cosner, he's gonna put $20 for coffee and donuts. I'm gonna be rich, man.
Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah. Leave Nolan alone. Listen, Detective Nolan, you can FaceTime and call John anytime you want.
Oh, thanks, Marlon. Thank you.
He FaceTime me. Sometimes I'm working. I'm like, I can't even pick up. He just keeps going. I love it, man. I think it's funny.
So, all right, peoples. Yeah, so join us Monday. We're going to get in on that new bill, a couple of bills that are happening in city council, but specifically the bill in city council where they're going to track all shootings. that the NYPD is super mad about, Shell's super butthurt about, and you know, we're gonna get into all of that and why we think that bill's important, why we support that bill. Like I said, we'll either have somebody from City Council, maybe a chief of staff, maybe a future council woman. So let's see how that plays out for Monday. But that's the topic we'll do on, because we didn't even touch it at all today. Real important, and I think, you know, next year we're going to be discussing it a lot. Everybody's going to be discussing it a lot. So yeah. So all right, peoples, have a great weekend, and we'll be back to you. Finest Unfiltered. See you on Monday.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?